Chapter 66-67. Ever since he had received He Shinjuan's true teachings, Di Baichen had been diligently practicing in this area. His array skills were also getting better and better. She had also learned from Di Baichen, but her attainments in this area were naturally inferior to his. It's that confinement killing array. Gong Jun was in high spirits. Ordinary confinement killing arrays are overlapping confinement arrays and killing arrays. However, Boss's confinement killing array is the fastest to activate, and its combat strength is extremely strong. After the first customer bought it, it didn't take long for him to come back and buy several more array stones. At that time, I didn't pay too much attention to it. After all, confinement killing arrays have always been in high demand. However, later on, I discovered that more and more cultivators were buying it, so I went to look into it and found out the problem. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. She also had some understanding of the confinement killing array's abilities. By activating this array when under threat, it could stall for time and save one's life. If one still had the strength to fight back, they might even take advantage of this opportunity to counterattack. Di Baichen, this array of yours is quite impressive. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. In comparison, there were the most brilliant Sun Realm cultivators. At the same realm, other means were also very important. After all, everyone's combat strength was always about the same. I can't compare to my wife. Di Baichen chuckled and said to Gong Jun, I know. Don't worry. Thank you, boss. Gong Jun was delighted. I will use the money I earned to buy the cultivation resources I need the most. The best way is to raise my cultivation as soon as possible. You're worth teaching. Di Baichen nodded slightly. To him, earning money was not important at all. The most important thing was to raise his cultivation. In their current state, their initial plan was to use array stones, pills, and the like to exchange for cultivation resources. Now that they had a stable partner like Gong Jun, there was no need to say anything more. Ever since the fiend slaughter competition ended, the anger in by Liu Chuan's heart had not dissipated for a long time. Because he had lost so much face in front of so many people, he didn't even have the face to go out. In any case, he was still a well-known figure in Xi'an City. This time, after such a thing happened, an 8th place was a complete disgrace to him. How's the situation with Di Baichen and company? Bai Luchuan asked his subordinate with a cold expression. Sir, they returned to their original residence after the demon slaughter competition ended. It is said that they were injured in the demon slaughter mountain range. I think they are still recuperating. Injured? Bai Luchuan narrowed his eyes. These fellows are just stumbling blocks. I have to kill them. Since they are injured, why don't we? Gongzi, now everyone knows about the enmity between you and Di Baichen. If something happens to Di Baichen and the others now, I'm sure everyone will link it to you. I'm afraid that will be a little troublesome. The man showed a difficult expression and tried to persuade her. Bai Luchuan snorted coldly. With my background, do you think I'm afraid of them? Even if everyone believes that I did it, so what? They have no relatives or friends in Xi'an City. No one will help them take revenge. Gongzi, that's true. It's not difficult for you to deal with them with your means. However, this Bailey Hongzhuang is Bai Qingli's savior. Chapter 66-68. Bai Liuchuan's expression gradually changed. He could ignore the others, but he had to be wary of Bai Qingli. After all, this fellow was the son of the city lord and had always been stubborn. Even though he and Bai Qingli were brothers, if he killed Bailey Hongzhuang, Bai Qingli would definitely be angry. When the time came, it would hurt the harmony between them. The assassination failed and he had been worried that he would be exposed. After returning, he immediately cut off all the clues. Once Bai Qingli found out that he had something to do with the assassination, then he would really be finished. Fortunately, he had been back for a few days and Bai Qingli had not made any movements. This made him feel more at ease. It's all because of those 3 fellows. Not only did they not kill her, but they also caused Bai Qingli to withdraw from this demon-slaying competition. Instead, it allowed him to preserve his reputation. Young master, it's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. There's no need to rush. Bai Luchuan gradually calmed down and narrowed his eyes. What has Xiaoman been doing recently? Miss Yun is also very tired from this training. She has been recuperating in the side hall. Let her go back to see shopkeeper Guan and tell him about Guan Yi. Hearing this, the man's eyes lit up. Young master wants shopkeeper Guan to take action? It's a fact that Guan Yi died at the hands of Di Baichen. I only gave him a chance to take revenge. If it wasn't for Guan Yi, I wouldn't have caused such trouble. Bai Liuchuan's eyes revealed a trace of depression. If he had known that Bailey Hongzhuang and her group would be so troublesome, he would definitely not have taken the initiative to find trouble. However, since it had become like this, he could only persevere to the end and get rid of all these stumbling blocks. It took Bailey Hongzhuang a few days to refine all the medicinal pills. She looked at Di Beichen, who was making the array stones. She slowly walked to the side and sat down. Her beautiful face was filled with a gentle smile. She held her chin in one hand and looked at him with interest. After Di Beichen finished making another array stone, he turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. "Are the pills all done?" "Of course." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and took out the pills. "This part is the reward for the competition, and this part is what Gong Jun asked me to help refine. How is your array stone?" "I've also made quite a few in the past few days. I was just waiting for you to come out." Di Beichen pulled Bailey Hongzhuang onto his lap and lowered his head to peck her cherry-colored lips. "Although it's the same type of array stone, I feel that my technique has improved after practice. Now, the number of times I make them is not the same as when I was in the abandoned immortal forest. Practice is extremely important. The more I practice, the more skilled I become. It just so happens that Gong Jun needs these things very much, so you can give them to him." Bailey Hongzhuang had a serious look on her face. Ever since she started cultivating, her alchemy skills had always been improving, and a large part of the reason was due to her diligent practice. "I didn't expect you to be so good at preaching." Di Beichen looked at the serious look of the woman in his arms and felt that there was an indescribable cuteness. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. When she saw Di Beichen's doting eyes, she couldn't help but smile. "I'm telling the truth. Stop joking." Chapter 66-69. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, they suddenly realized that there was a large group of people gathered at the entrance. It was bustling with noise coming from inside. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen. "Did something happen? Let's go take a look." Di Beichen subconsciously held the woman's hand and walked forward. In the crowd, a man with wounds on his body was cursing with righteous indignation. "This is the formation stone that your Immortal Treasure Pavilion sells? Not only is it useless, it can't even be activated. It's because of this that I suffered such serious injuries. You have to compensate me." After hearing the man's arrogant words, the surrounding people's expressions became very complicated. Is this real or fake? The Immortal Treasure Pavilion's formation stone can't be activated? I've never heard of such a situation before. My friend clearly said that the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's formation stone is very useful. I didn't expect this to happen. Let's wait and see. If this is really the case, we won't dare to buy anything here in the future. If we can't activate it when it needs to be activated, we'll lose our lives. The Immortal Treasure Pavilion's reputation was very well known now. Many cultivators came because of its reputation. When they suddenly heard this today, they couldn't help but feel frightened. After all, they hadn't bought it before. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown after hearing the man's words. "There's a problem with the formation stone? It can't be that you made the formation stone, right?" Di Beichen's expression was somewhat serious. "The formation stones I make are all confirmed to be successful. There won't be a situation where it can't be activated." Previously, when he was learning from Master Zhongli, he was told that there must be no problems in this area. Not only that, Senior Zhongli also taught him how to confirm success. Therefore, when he made the formation stone, he would always check if there were any mistakes. Perhaps the array stones that Gong Jun collected from other places had this problem. Although this is a small probability event, there is still a certain possibility of it happening. There was a trace of worry in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. "I'm afraid Gong Jun will have to spend some effort in this regard." Any businessman was most worried about encountering such a situation. If they couldn't handle it properly, it would inevitably affect their future business. Di Beichen's gaze inadvertently fell on the Wanbao Pavilion opposite him. Ever since the end of the monster slaying competition, the business of the Wanbao Pavilion had been much worse than before. Gong Jun had always been very careful when doing business. Logically speaking, such a situation shouldn't have happened. Once this accusation was confirmed, the Myriad Treasure Pavilion would benefit the most. It's been a few days since Guan Yi's death, but Guan Hongtian hasn't done anything. It's really not his style? Di Beichen said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and looked towards the Thousand Treasure Pavilion. This was indeed a little strange. Could it be that the Wanbao Pavilion is behind this? Bailey Hongzhuang fell into deep thought. If this wasn't an accident, then it was either the Wanbao Pavilion or Bai Luchuan who did it. These two fellows weren't people who would give up easily. It wasn't easy for them to be quiet these days. Presumably they couldn't sit still anymore. Let's wait and see for now. Chapter 66-70. When the man saw Gong Jun come out, the anger on his face grew. He quickly walked forward and said, "Shopkeeper Gong, the reason why I suffered such serious injuries is all because of the problem with your array stones. No matter what, you have to give me an explanation." Gong Jun carefully sized up the man. When he saw that the injuries on his body were not fake, a trace of worry appeared between his brows. He had been doing business for so long and had never encountered such a situation. "Sir, why don't we go in and talk in detail? If this array stone really came from Immortal Treasure Pavilion, then I will take full responsibility for this matter. I won't let you suffer in vain." Gong Jun was very polite and his words were sincere. He knew the principle of doing business very well. Once this kind of thing happened, it had to be resolved properly. Otherwise, there would be no end of trouble. However, after hearing this, the man's face was full of reluctance. "Shopkeeper Gong, I bought this array stone from you. What do you mean by sure? Do you think I'd deliberately cheat you?" "Sir, that's not what I meant. This is just a routine." The man snorted coldly, "Don't talk nonsense with me. Anyway, the array stones in your shop are harming people. The price is not cheap, but there's still such a problem. I shouldn't have listened to others and come to your shop to buy the array stones. I almost lost my life because of it." Gong Jun looked at the man's unyielding appearance, and his brows gradually furrowed. "Don't try to drag me in. This matter needs to be witnessed by others. Who knows if you will blackmail me after dragging me in? I'm not that stupid. The things in your shop are obviously not very good, but there are still so many people flattering them. Now it seems that they have received benefits from you. That's why they are working so hard to promote you, right?" The man's voice was extremely loud and clear. It was as if he wanted everyone present to hear him clearly. After hearing this, everyone's thoughts could not help but change. Problems with the array stones had happened before. It was just that the frequency of it happening was not high. What he said makes sense. Immortal Treasure Pavilion is much stronger than before. If we go in, maybe they will just cover up this matter. That's right. This matter must be reported in front of everyone. But you have to be clear. If the things in Immortal Treasure Pavilion are really so unreliable, then we won't dare to come here casually in the future. Although the things in Immortal Treasure Pavilion are more expensive, it is a shop in the Immortal region. The things inside are guaranteed. In my opinion, the saying cheap goods don't have good goods is very true. Gong Jun noticed that some customers who wanted to buy things in the store were wavering. Many cultivators who had just bought things wanted to return the goods. His expression turned even uglier. In this world, there were many cultivators who followed the opinions of others. Seeing this man's words, Immortal Treasure Pavilions immortal, immortal treasures, immortals? Immortal treasure, immortal, immortal, immortals. Young master, you said that the formation stone came from my Celestial Treasure Pavilion, but it's not confirmed yet. Don't be in a hurry to pin this on my Celestial Treasure Pavilion. Chapter 66-71. Seeing the change in Gong Jun's attitude, the man's expression became even more aggrieved. "Everyone take a good look. This is what they call a big shop bullying its customers. If he can act like this in front of everyone, if I go into the shop to talk to him in detail, I don't even know if I'll be able to leave. In my opinion, this is a shady shop." Hearing the man's questioning, everyone had different expressions. Gong Jun's change in attitude was too obvious, and it was hard for them to accept. I've already said before that as long as the array stone is confirmed to be from Immortal Treasure Pavilion, the compensation will definitely not be small. We will also do our best to satisfy your requests. It's you who has been clamoring without giving up, and you still haven't mentioned compensation. I've been running the shop for so long, and this is the first time I've seen someone like you. If there's really a problem, the most concerned thing would be compensation. Who would be like you? Could it be that you're not here to ask for compensation but to frame me? Gong Jun narrowed his eyes, which were shining with a sharp and shrewd light. He was now certain that this guy was here to cause trouble. Such methods must have something to do with Immortal Treasure Pavilion. The man's expression changed slightly, and he quickly said with full confidence, "I'm just afraid that your shop is bullying its customers. That's why I asked for compensation in front of everyone." "May I know what kind of array stone you bought from our shop?" Gong Jun asked in a low voice. "It's none other than your shop's famous trap and kill array. Apart from Immortal Treasure Pavilion, no other shop has this array stone. Now you can't deny it." The man took out the array stone. The packaging was also from Immortal Treasure Pavilion. It's actually a trap and kill array? Bailey Hongzhuang, who was outside the crowd, raised her eyebrows when she heard this name. She looked at the man beside her. Previously, Beichen said that there wouldn't be any problems with the array stone he made. He didn't expect that the array stone that the other party was looking for trouble with was made by him. This was interesting. Master, they're saying that your formation skills aren't good enough. Xiao Bai's face was ashen. His master had spent a lot of effort on array techniques, and every array stone had been carefully checked. Now, someone had actually splashed dirty water on him. Don't be impatient. Let's wait and see. Di Beichen was not in a hurry. His handsome face was as calm as ever. Given the current situation, it would be best if we can find out who the mastermind is through this fellow. However, judging from the current situation, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the Wanbao Pavilion, but found that the Wanbao Pavilion was very quiet at the moment, as if the noise outside did not affect the inside at all. Similarly, she did not see Guan Hongtian's figure. However, it was precisely because of this that it was the strangest. Usually, when a competitor encountered a problem, they would definitely come out to watch the show. If they didn't come out now, they probably already knew what was going on outside. At the same time, Guan Hongtian was coldly watching the farce outside the Immortal Treasure Pavilion from a restaurant not far away. Gong Jun, this time I'll start with your Immortal Treasure Pavilion. After this incident, I'd like to see how many people will take care of your business. When he thought of Guan Yi's death, he wished that he could directly kill Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Chapter 66-72. Fortunately, not only had these two guys annoyed him, they had also annoyed Bai Luchuan. Now he would first destroy the Immortal Treasure Pavilion and cut off Gong Jun's thoughts. First he would collect some interest. As for their lives, he would find a way to make them accompany Guan Yi in death. Ever since the demon-slaying competition ended, he had noticed that the business of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion was getting better and better. Many of his regular customers had also appeared in the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. This feeling really made him unhappy. Recently, the business of the Wanbao Pavilion had been declining. When the time came, they would also be criticized. When he thought of this, his hatred grew even stronger. Ever since Gong Jun confirmed that the man was deliberately causing trouble and was very likely sent by the Wanbao Pavilion, he had made up his mind. He would never admit it. The things sold by the Immortal Treasure Pavilion have always been strictly inspected. The situation you mentioned would never happen. Recently, our business has been getting better and better. I also know that many people are envious. However, it's too shameless to do such a thing just because of greed. Gong Jun's expression was serious. Everyone here should have bought something from the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. You should know very well what the thing is like. Some people around nodded slightly. The things in the Immortal Treasure Pavilion have always been cheap and beautiful. The price of the elixir is not higher than that of the Wanbao Pavilion, but the effect is much better. That's not a bluff. I bought this trap and kill array before. The effect is indeed excellent. There were no problems. The man did not expect Gong Jun to be so calm in such a situation. With just a few words, he had the hope of clearing all suspicion. This made him even more anxious. This was his mission here. He could not let Gong Jun have his way. Shopkeeper Gong, I also admire your glib tongue. However, this thing came from your shop. It's too ridiculous for you to refuse to admit it. Take a good look at these two array stones. If you don't believe me, take out the other trap and kill array stones in your shop. We will know after comparing them. At this time, the man beside Gong Jun could not help but whisper, Shopkeeper, this trap and kill array was sold out 2 days ago. Although his voice was soft, it was heard by the man. He immediately laughed mockingly. What did I hear? Your trap and kill array has been sold out? I think you just don't dare to compare, so you came up with this excuse, right? That's ridiculous. If something like this happens again in the future, any one of you can just come and say that the stock has been sold out and there's no more stock to be replenished. Wouldn't that be like a dead man telling no tales? Gong Jun frowned. Recently, many things in the shop had indeed been sold out. He tried his best to buy from others, but he could not stop the business. Previously, boss had indeed promised to help him make some array stones, but he didn't know how it was going. Go and ask my boss if he has any array stones, Gong Jun instructed. He finally understood that Guan Hongtian had purposely chosen this moment to arouse everyone's suspicions. The trap and kill array. At this moment, a magnetic voice suddenly sounded from the periphery of the crowd. Chapter 6673. Boss, you're here? Gong Jun looked at the man in surprise. He didn't expect everything to be so coincidental. Just as he was worrying about the array stone, the boss and the others arrived. With the appearance of Di Beichen, everyone's gaze changed. They had long heard that the Immortal Treasure Pavilion had a close relationship with Di Beichen, the winner of the demon-slaying competition. Now, it seemed that their relationship was indeed very good. Coincidentally, I brought the array stones here. Now we can compare them. Di Beichen raised his right hand, and the Qingquan bag appeared in his hand. Since this young master wants to compare, then let's compare in front of everyone. Gong Jun looked at Di Beichen's confident expression, and his original worry dissipated. He gave the waiter beside him a look, and the waiter immediately ran into the shop and carried a table out. After placing the array stone Di Beichen brought on the table, Gong Jun looked at the man. Come, let's compare. The man obviously didn't expect this to happen, but he didn't panic. He slowly took out his array stone. Let's compare. This is your store's array stone. In an instant, many cultivators surrounded them. Everyone wanted to see if this was the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's array stone. When the two array stones were placed together, they fell into everyone's sight. The array stones themselves didn't look very different. Only the pattern on the array stones showed the function of the array stones. After careful comparison, the crowd found that the pattern on the two array stones was exactly the same. In addition, this was the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's trap and kill array. There was no other possibility. After seeing this, the expressions of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's attendants became very ugly. This matter had been blown out of proportion. If it was really their fault in the end, their reputation would be greatly reduced. On the second floor of the restaurant, Guan Hongtian listened to his subordinate's report, and a trace of a contemptuous smile appeared in his eyes. Shopkeeper, will they find out what we're doing? The attendant at the side was a little worried. The Myriad Treasure Pavilion and the Immortal Treasure Pavilion had always been at odds. This was something that everyone knew. If they didn't succeed in framing the Immortal Treasure Pavilion today, then everyone would definitely blame it on them. At that time it would be troublesome. Guan Hongtian chuckled. This formation stone was made by a formation master I specially invited. The lines drawn on the surface are exactly the same as the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's confinement and killing formation, so it's impossible to find any clues. If they want to blame someone, they can only blame themselves for being unique. They just had to push out this kind of formation stone that other shops don't have. Once something happens, they won't be able to get away with it. A confinement killing array that couldn't be activated at all? What methods could the other party have to prove it? Dead men tell no tales. Speaking of which, it was strange. Ever since he heard that the trap and kill array was selling very well, he sent people to buy it and study it. He even found many array masters to decipher the secrets of the trap and kill array. As long as he could figure out how to make this trap and kill array and contribute it to the Wanbao Pavilion, he would definitely be rewarded handsomely. Perhaps his status would also be elevated. However, no matter how many array masters he found, they were unable to simulate all of this. Chapter 6674. Everyone look clearly. The pattern on this formation stone is exactly the same. You can't deny it now. The man raised his head and questioned loudly, Everyone, you have to be my witness. Di Beichen picked up the man's formation stone and sensed it. He immediately understood where the problem was. Boss, what's going on? Did they imitate the trap and kill array? Gong Jun asked Di Beichen telepathically. He didn't believe that this thing was really sold by the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. With Guan Hongtian's methods, it wouldn't be difficult for him to create such a situation. The other party must have tampered with the pattern on this formation stone and imitated it exactly. However, they didn't figure out how to create the trap and kill array, so they only imitated the surface, Di Beichen said in a low voice. Gong Jun immediately understood. However, even if he understood this matter, it was useless. After all, the others wouldn't accept such an explanation at all. Boss, do you have any way to prove this point? Gong Jun turned his gaze to Di Beichen. He wasn't a formation master and didn't know much about this. Even though he knew very well that there was probably no way to solve this problem, it would be troublesome if he couldn't give a reasonable explanation in front of so many people. It's not my formation stone. Naturally, I have a way. Di Beichen's lips curled up slightly. His formation skills wouldn't allow others to slander him like this. Gong Jun, who was just probing, suddenly heard Di Beichen's affirmative answer. He couldn't help but be surprised. For a moment he even suspected that he had misheard. Boss, you said you have a way to prove it? That's right. Di Baichen said with certainty. Hearing this, the worry in Gong Jun's heart dissipated, and he was completely at ease. The pattern on these two formation stones does look the same, but this isn't the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's formation stone. Gong Jun raised his head, his round face full of seriousness and sternness. This is simply an array stone that you used to frame others. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present couldn't help but be stunned. The other party had already produced ironclad evidence, yet Gong Jun actually still denied it so firmly? When the injured man saw Gong Jun's confident appearance, he panicked for no reason. However, he quickly calmed down. The plan this time was flawless. It was impossible for the other party to break it. The two array stones are clearly the same, yet you still refuse to admit it. Aren't you a little too shameless? The man's face was full of indignation. I bought this array stone from you. There's no such thing as framing someone else. At this moment, Di Baichen also stood up. The array stones of this deathtrap array were created by me. I am very clear about every single one of them. This one is indeed not made by me. His voice wasn't very loud, but it carried a special kind of magic. It caused the originally extremely noisy environment to suddenly become silent. Everyone looked at him seriously, waiting for his reasonable explanation. The injured man originally wanted to take advantage of the chaos to arouse everyone's indignation. He didn't think that after spending so much effort to make everyone angry, Di Baichen would only need to open his mouth to pacify everyone. Wasn't the difference a little too big? Chapter 66-75. Di Baichen faintly glanced at the man, his sharp eyes carrying an unparalleled sharpness, and the man could not help but shut his mouth. The formation stones that I made look no different from ordinary formation stones, but each formation stone has my mark on it. Hearing this, the man was stunned. What kind of joke is this? How did you leave a mark on such a small stone? Look carefully. Di Baichen took out his own array stone. On one side of it, there were a few tiny marks. These are the marks I left behind. In the next second, Di Baichen took out a few more array stones from his heavenly pouch. Look carefully. Every single stone has my mark. The man didn't believe it. He took all the documents and looked through them. After looking through them, his face turned pale. He never thought that someone would leave a mark on an array stone. This was far too strange. As a result, they had truly made a mistake this time. Gong Jun also didn't realize there was a mark on the stone. Now that he saw it clearly, his eyes were full of excitement. His boss truly had foresight. This kind of small mark would have been assumed by a normal person. If they didn't look at it carefully, they wouldn't have noticed. However, this also happened to be their evidence. How do I know you didn't do this on purpose? The man's face was white and he couldn't help but to panic. If he didn't succeed this time, he would be punished when he returns. Most importantly, it was difficult for him to find a way out. What you said is interesting. We didn't even know that you would come looking for trouble today, so how could we have been one step ahead of you in making the array stones? Gong Jun retorted. The man opened his mouth, not knowing how to explain himself. He was going crazy. Why would someone choose to leave a mark on something like this? At this moment, everyone looked at the man's expression. How could they not understand the truth of the matter? I really didn't expect this man to come here today to frame me. I almost believed him earlier. The things in the Immortal Treasure Pavilion are cheap and beautiful. Recently, their business has been booming. I'm afraid there are people who can't stand it anymore. That's why they came up with such a method. In the future, you really can't believe such words. If it wasn't for the fact that there was a mark on the formation stone, then the Immortal Treasure Pavilion would have really been swindled. Everyone shook their heads and sighed, looking at the man with eyes full of disgust. Seeing this, the man didn't have the face to stay any longer. He immediately turned around and left the crowd. Seeing this, the crowd sighed again and couldn't help but look at the Wanbao Pavilion. The Myriad Treasure Pavilion was the most dissatisfied with the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. The two sides had always been competitors. Coupled with the grudge between Di Baichen and Guan Yi, it was expected that something like this would happen. Thank you, everyone, for witnessing today. Our Immortal Treasure Pavilion has always done business properly. Unfortunately, there are always people who find ways to cause trouble. I hope everyone can believe in our Immortal Treasure Pavilion's character. We will definitely not sell things that are not up to standard. Of course we believe you. Everyone smiled faintly. Chapter 66-76. Guan Hongtian had been waiting for a good show. Once the Celestial Treasure Pavilion's reputation was tarnished, it would be impossible for them to make a comeback. He wanted to cut off their source of income. In the entire Shiyun city, as long as he and Master Bai worked together, they wouldn't be able to sell their things even if they wanted to. However, just as he was waiting for the show to get bigger and bigger, he found that the person he found had left with his tail between his legs. What's going on? Guan Hongtian's face immediately darkened. Didn't I tell you? Could it be that the person you found couldn't even do such a simple thing? Feeling Guan Hongtian's anger, the attendant's heart tightened. He quickly said, Manager Guan, this person has always been good at this kind of thing. Logically speaking, this shouldn't have happened. I'm afraid there's been a change in the situation. What change could there be? A bunch of trash. Guan Hongtian cursed. Go and find out what's going on right now. Yes, I'll go right away. The attendant didn't dare to stay any longer and quickly ran out. Guan Hongtian stood there with a gloomy face. If today's matter didn't work, the Celestial Treasure Pavilion would be the one to be implicated. Bailey Hongzhuang saw that the Celestial Treasure Pavilion was even livelier than before, and a joyful smile appeared on her face. Now that today's misunderstanding has been resolved, even if someone tries to slander the Celestial Treasure Pavilion in the future, people won't believe it so easily. People were like this. Once someone was wrongly accused and cleared their name, if something like this happened again in the future, people would think it was a repeat of the same story. This Guan Hongtian is really despicable. I can't believe he came up with such a plan. Gong Jun was a little scared. Fortunately, Boss was far-sighted and left such an excellent mark on this little formation stone. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to clear our name even if we jumped into the Yellow River. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen in surprise. How did you come up with the idea of leaving a mark on the formation stone? I learned it from Master. Di Beichen smiled faintly. When I was studying earlier, I found that my master had a habit of leaving a mark on the things he made. He said that this was to be responsible for his own things. Once the things you make aren't good, you'll be ruining your reputation. Bailey Hongzhuang thought about Zhong Li Xiaoran's usually strict appearance, and understood in her heart. Senior Zhong Li had always been a very serious person. Whether it was towards others or towards himself, he always had high expectations. This kind of habit was indeed very much in line with his personality. Boss, it turns out that your master is also so powerful. Gong Jun's face was full of admiration. This time, Guan Hongtian must have been caught unprepared. Since he failed to slander us, everyone naturally thought of them, but what? Gong Jun's brows gradually furrowed, and a thought-provoking look appeared on his face. I've fought with Guan Hongtian for a long time, so I have some understanding of his character. He's not a scheming person. I originally thought that after learning of Guan Yi's death, he would definitely come looking for trouble immediately. However, instead of directly rushing to our door and yelling about killing us, he instead used this method. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. Compared to the previous public appearance of trouble, Guan Hongtian's secret scheme was much more troublesome. Chapter 66-77. Bai Luchuan hasn't made any moves yet. It's also not in line with his personality. Gong Jun frowned. Although he looked the same as usual on the surface, he had always been on guard. He was prepared to deal with the other party's methods at any time. However, the situation had exceeded his expectations. The two of them hadn't come looking for trouble first. Bai Luchuan shouldn't dare to make a move for the time being. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. I previously told Bai Qingli that Bai Luchuan has been playing tricks behind her back. I believe Bai Qingli is also concerned about this. Bai Luchuan is currently busy dealing with her, so he shouldn't be able to find trouble with us for the time being. Upon hearing this, Gong Jun understood. So that's how it is. I was wondering why Bai Liuchuan's personality suddenly changed. Now that the Myriad Treasure Pavilion has gone for wool and come home shorn, I think they will temporarily stop for a few days before they eliminate this negative impact, Di Beichen said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the pills she had refined and placed them on the counter. These are the herbs you asked me to help you refine. I've already refined them all. Do as you see fit. With that said, she took out some more pills. These are for Yen Che and the others. They should be coming to get them in a few days. Help me hand them over. Gong Jun nodded repeatedly. Madam, don't worry. I will definitely teach them properly. Di Beichen also handed all the array stones to Gong Jun before saying, these things should be enough for the Immortal Treasure Pavilion to hold on for a while. The City Lord's mansion's rewards are very generous. The pills refined are also very suitable for our current cultivation level. Hong Zhuang and I plan to go into seclusion for a while. I hope our strength can increase. Part of the reason for going out to train was for combat experience, and the other part was for cultivation resources. Although the cultivation resources in the abandoned immortal forest were considered rich, there was still a large gap between them and the outside world. Now that they had an abundance of cultivation resources on hand, they naturally had to work hard to cultivate and improve their cultivation. I understand. Boss and Madam will only be able to protect me if they become stronger. Gong Jun chuckled. Don't worry. With me looking after the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, there won't be any problems. Di Beichen nodded slightly. If you need anything you can come to us. I understand. After giving some instructions, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen went back to their secluded meditation. Ever since they had witnessed the power of that demon, they had deeply understood how difficult it was to break through to the elementary immortal stage. At the very least, with their current cultivation, they were too far away from the elementary celestial stage. If they wanted to reach the same cultivation level as the demonic beasts, they would have to work hard and cultivate for a long time. However, before going into seclusion, the two of them made a trip back to the D family. No matter what, their family was the most important. When they went out to train, they had to go back to visit when they had the time. Fortunately, everything in the family was in order and there were no problems. The only pity was that even though the family head and the rest had spent a lot of effort, they still could not find Xiao Sou's whereabouts. This made them feel uneasy. Xiao Sou was not an easy person to deal with, and along the way they were very clear that luck was a very mysterious but very special thing. Chapter 66-78. Diyu Jue naturally understood Di Beichen's concerns and promised to continue the search. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and Diyu Jue also understood that the chances of finding Xiao Sou under these circumstances were not high. So many people have been searching for her, but they still haven't found her. She's quite good at hiding. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. Thinking back to the ancient battlefield, Xiao Sou's strength had also increased by quite a bit. Coupled with Shu Yu's careful guidance, her strength should have improved quite a bit as well. Shu Yu isn't with Xiao Sou right now. Father and the others have already asked around, but they couldn't find any clues. Now that I think about it, it's quite troublesome. Neither of them spoke, but there was an indescribable premonition in their hearts. They vaguely felt that they would meet Xiao Sou again in the future. After putting this matter aside, Bailey Hongzhuang and Diyu Jue left a portion of the blood spirit stones they had obtained from the monster slaughtering competition with the family. Because the cultivation resources that the two of them brought back were extremely precious to the D family, after a few times, the D family began to implement a new reward and punishment system. Every 3 months, the young cultivators of the D family would have a competition. The winning cultivator would receive a certain amount of rewards. Under this kind of reward system, every cultivator put in a lot of effort. It was precisely because of this subtle change that the D family's current strength was not something that the major forces of the upper realm dared to underestimate. Everyone understood that although these were only the younger generation and did not affect the major forces for the time being, in a few more years, these juniors would become the mainstays of the major forces. When that time came, the situation would naturally change. After the two of them returned to the immortal region, they went into closed-door cultivation. Bai Li Yanche and the others also went into closed-door cultivation after obtaining the pills from Gong Jun. They went into closed-door cultivation for 3 months. When Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes, a black and white light flashed in her eyes. Very quickly they returned to their usual black color. A satisfied smile appeared on her face as she sensed that her body was much more abundant than before. The city lord had rewarded her with many resources, and the medicinal herbs were all prepared for cultivators of their level. With the help of the pills and enough blood spirit stones, her strength had improved quite a bit. This time she had only used 1 pill. As an alchemist, she knew very well that pills were very helpful for cultivators. However, using them too frequently could lead to dependence, so she had always been careful about this point. For the rest of her time, she used the blood spirit stone to cultivate in order to consolidate her cultivation. Other than the pills he had taken, there were still 2 pills left. It would be a good choice to go into seclusion after a while. She raised her eyes to look at Di Beichen, who was still cultivating beside her. She did not disturb him and quietly walked out of the room. The Radiant Sun realm is indeed a very strange realm. After cultivating for so long, I only feel that this realm is like a vast ocean. Even though I can feel the improvement of my origin power, I know even more clearly that there is still a very long road ahead. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her head to look at the bright sunlight. The weather had unknowingly turned cold. The sunlight that shone on her body was less scorching and more warm. Chapter 66-79. How rare. You actually know how to comfort me now. Bailey Hongzhuang rubbed Xiaohei's head. It had to be said that Xiaohei's head felt really good to the touch. Hee, I'll grow up too. Xiaohei's hair was dyed slightly red, making her seem even more adorable. At this moment, a series of footsteps suddenly rang out from outside the door. As soon as she heard the heavy footsteps, Bailey Hongzhuang already knew who it was. Without waiting for the other party to knock on the door, she directly opened the courtyard door. The person did not seem to have expected the door to suddenly open. He was stunned at first before smiling. "Madam, you've emerged from seclusion?" Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. "I've only just emerged from seclusion, and I've already run into you. It can't be that coincidental, right? Madam really is smart. Actually, this is already the third time I've come. I just wanted to try my luck and see when you and boss would emerge from seclusion." Gong Jun rubbed the back of his head with a naive look on his face. "But what happened? It's actually nothing major. Didn't Madam tell me to pay attention to the city lord of Qingyang City? I've been trying to find out more about this recently." Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. "Is there any news about the city lord of Qingyang City? It'll be the city lord's birthday in a few days. The city lord's estate will hold a banquet according to past customs. The city lord of Qingyang City is on extremely good terms with our city lord, and they've always been in contact with each other. He obviously won't be absent from the city lord's birthday banquet." Gong Jun smiled. "So I thought that since there's a chance to meet the city lord of Qingyang City, why don't we give it a try?" "That's fantastic." Bailey Hongzhuang was unable to hide her joy. She had always thought that if she wanted to obtain the illusory form pearl, she would probably have to make a trip to Qingyang City. She never thought that the city lord of Qingyang City would come to Cloud Gathering City before they even made a move. It really couldn't be any better. She could not help but think about how Bai Qingli had once said that she would find a way to help her obtain the illusory form pearl back in the labyrinth. She didn't take it to heart at first, but now it seemed that Bai Qingli really had the ability. "Madam, the city lord Manor sent this over a few days ago." Gong Jun handed the two invitations to her. "Originally, these invitations were sent to you, but because you were in closed-door cultivation, they were sent to the Immortal Treasure Pavilion." Bailey Hongzhuang opened the invitation and found that it was an invitation to the city lord's birthday. "This should have been sent by Bai Qingli. Madam is his savior, he can't forget about you." Gong Jun's face was full of joy. "Because of boss and madam, I had the chance to go to the city lord's mansion to take a look. That would be great." Bailey Hongzhuang carefully looked at the date and found that the birthday celebration was in 7 days. By that time, Beichen should have already come out of seclusion. "Madam, this is the city lord's birthday celebration. We still have to prepare a gift," Gong Jun said after some thought. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Since they were going, they naturally could not avoid the gift. However, with the city lord's status, the gift they had to give couldn't be too simple. "What do you think we should give?" "I've already chosen a few things. Logically speaking, they don't need to be too expensive. Just a few things worth admiring and playing with will do. I'm at ease with you handling things. Then I'll leave this to you." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She had never been very good at this aspect. Having a know-it-all like Gong Jun was really the best. Chapter 66-80. Have Bai Luchuan and Guanhong Tian been up to anything recently? Bailey Hongzhuang asked after putting away the invitation. Gong Jun shook his head slightly. "I don't know what's wrong with them, but they've been very quiet recently. Nothing's happened." "That's good." Bailey Hongzhuang was relieved. It wasn't until Gong Jun left that she sat down on a stone bench in the courtyard. There was a thoughtful look on her face. "Master, what are you thinking about?" Xiaohei jumped onto the table and tilted her head to look at her master in puzzlement. "I'm just thinking that Bai Luchuan and Guanhong Tian have been too quiet recently. It's a little strange. Perhaps they know that master is not to be trifled with, so they've temporarily stopped." "I hope so." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. "Although in my heart they aren't such tactful people." As the city lord's birthday approached, the entire Shiyun city seemed to be livelier. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw that Di Beichen hadn't come out of seclusion, she thought that perhaps only she and Gong Jun would be going together today. However, just as she was about to set off, Beichen exited his cultivation state. "Wife, are you ready to set off?" Beichen stood up. His picturesque eyebrows were beautiful to begin with, and his gentle voice was even more touching. "I thought you wouldn't be able to make it today," Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. "Wait for me for a moment. I'll change my clothes." "All right. Boss, wait." Just as Beichen was about to go in to change his clothes, he saw a round figure roll in like a ball. There was a look of anxiety on his face. "What's the matter?" Stopping in his tracks, Beichen looked at Gong Jun in puzzlement. Could something have happened at this critical juncture? Who knew that after Gong Jun stopped, he had a smile on his face. "Boss, today is the city lord's birthday. We have to dress formally. You and madam usually dress too simply. I specially sent someone to customize a set of clothes for you today. Quick, put on the clothes I prepared for you." Gong Jun handed the clothes in his hand to Beichen, his eyes full of anticipation. "Today is the city lord's birthday, not ours. Why do we need to dress so grandly?" Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. She had never spent too much effort in this regard as long as she was not rude. "You usually like to wear white, but today is a happy occasion. It's not good to wear white. Listen to me and change." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it and felt that Gong Jun's words were very polite. Looking at the red and white clothes in her hand, it was very appropriate, so she did not refuse. "All right then. Wait for us for a moment. We'll come out after changing." Soon, Bailey Hongzhuang finished changing. Feeling the texture of the clothes, a look of satisfaction appeared on her face. Gong Jun had obviously spent some effort on the clothes. The material was very comfortable. It was as thin as a cicada's wing and had a great touch. The size was indeed tailor-made. "Wife, I'm done." Beichen slowly walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. His face was full of smiles like a spring breeze, or like spring returning to the earth. Looking at the handsome man with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be shocked. Chapter 6681. Hongzhuang had always known that Beichen was extremely good-looking, but this appearance of wearing luxurious clothes gave her a completely different feeling. Beichen looked at the woman in red in front of him, and a trace of amazement flashed across his brows. Different from her usual elegance and purity, there was a trace of enchanting charm, which made people's eyes light up. "Oh my God, this is amazing." Gong Jun looked at the two people in front of him in admiration and couldn't help but applaud. "My taste. TSK, this dress suits you too well." Looking at Gong Jun's exaggerated expression, Bailey Hongzhuang and Beichen couldn't help but chuckle. "All right, you don't have to show off. It's not appropriate to be late on a day like today. Let's go now." The three of them walked towards the city lord's mansion, and along the way, they met many people who were also going to the city lord's mansion to deliver gifts. Looking at such a large scale, Xiaohei couldn't help but say in surprise, "There are actually so many people attending the city lord's birthday banquet? This is simply a grand occasion." Gong Jun smiled faintly. "You don't know this, but it's the city lord's birthday banquet. Everyone naturally wants to express their sincerity, but most people only send congratulatory gifts. There aren't many who actually attend." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood, this kind of situation couldn't be more normal. The city lord's status in the city was not to be underestimated, especially when doing business. Everyone had to rely on the city lord. On such a day, even if they weren't qualified to attend, they definitely couldn't be lacking in etiquette. When the three of them arrived at the city lord's mansion, they saw City Lord Bai Ziyuan and Bai Qingli standing outside the door to welcome guests, congratulatory voices resounding everywhere, and the entire city lord's mansion was filled with a joyous scene. "Miss Bailey, young Master D, you're here." After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, Bai Qingli quickly walked over, a rare smile appearing on his handsome face. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and cupped her hands. "Congratulations, we're here to celebrate the city lord's birthday. Come, please come in." Bai Qingli waved his hand and a servant took the congratulatory gifts from Gong Jun's hands, and the three of them walked in front of Bai Ziyuan. "Congratulations to the city lord on his birthday." After seeing them, Bai Ziyuan smiled. "Thank you, please come in." Almost everyone who came here was trying to find a way to say a few words to the city lord. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others no longer bothered them, and under the personal guidance of Bai Qingli, they entered the city lord's mansion. Unlike the outside, it was 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 not as luxurious as the outside, the inside, it was not like the inside, there was a feeling of a secluded mountains. At this moment, there was an endless stream of servants and maids. All kinds of fruits and snacks were constantly being served, and the wine and tea emitted a faint fragrance. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, she hadn't seen such a lively scene for a long time. There are many snacks prepared here, if there's anything you like, just try it, there's no need to be restrained. Bai Qingli was very friendly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, looking at the man's rosy face, she smiled and said, "It seems that you've been doing well recently." Chapter 6682. Thinking of this, Bai Qingli was extremely grateful to Bailey Hongzhuang. He was also very aware of how good the medical skills of the pharmacists in the city lord's mansion were. So when he heard from this person that Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were far better than his heart was shocked. Because Bailey Hongzhuang was just too young. Although he was also shocked when he was saved, he only understood how difficult it was for him to keep his life after coming back. This was also his luck, the heavens left him a way out. This is also because you've been recuperating since you came back. Seeing Bai Qingli's complexion, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that he had recovered. The self-destruction of humans and monsters were different. Although she and Beichen were injured, their foundation was not damaged. Compared to Bai Qingli, their injuries were much lighter. That's right, the city lord of Qingyang City I told you before will also come today. When the time comes, I will think of a way to get the illusion form bead for you. Don't worry. Bai Qingli gave her a look. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang's life-saving grace, the cultivation resources he gave her back then were nothing. He had always felt like he owed her. Fortunately, he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang cared a lot about the illusion form bead. As long as he could find the illusion form bead, he would have a way to repay her. Seeing the man's serious appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment before saying, "Then thank you, Sir Bai." She really did need the illusion form bead, but with her status, it was too difficult to get it from the city lord of Qingyang City. It was much easier for Bai Qingli to do this. "You're welcome, it's what I should do." Bai Qingli smiled and said, "You guys take a seat first, I still have to greet the guests. Hurry up and get busy." Only after Bai Qingli left did Bailey Hongzhuang and the others continue to walk inside. "Beichen, you guys are here." Hearing a surprised voice, Di Beichen turned his head and saw Di Xiaofeng and Mo Yunjue and Zhongli Mu walking over. "Today you guys." Di Xiaofeng looked at the two people in front of him with surprise. "Looks really extraordinary." Zhongli Mu was also surprised. "You guys look really good today." Suddenly being praised, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and heard him say with a smile, "This is all Gong Jun's idea. If you're interested, ask him to tell you the name of the shop and you can order a few custom-made." Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows. "The weather is getting colder. Yinyan should buy some clothes. Gong Jun, you have to tell me later." "Big brother, there's no need for you to worry. Leave it to me." Gong Jun was as friendly as ever. Ever since he found out that Di Xiaofeng was Beichen's big brother, he called him that. Di Xiaofeng didn't care about this. This guy's personality was like this, but it wasn't annoying. "Look, Bai Luchuan is right in front." Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows and pointed not far away. Bailey Hongzhuang followed the line of sight and sure enough she met Bai Liuchuan's gaze, which was still too late to retract. It was full of resentment as usual. From this, it could be seen that even though this guy had stopped for a while, this matter was still on his mind. Chapter 6683. Upon hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang revealed a look of understanding. As expected, this guy was definitely not someone who would stop easily. After being locked up for a few months, I'm afraid he hates us even more now, Mo Yunjue said coldly. Guan Hongtian is right beside Bai Luchuan. These two fellows might pull some dirty tricks when they get together. You guys have to be prepared. At this moment, a slightly unfamiliar voice sounded behind Di Beichen. Everyone could not help but turn their heads. Gong Jun looked at the stranger in front of him with a complicated expression. They didn't have any interactions with this person, but he suddenly said such words. It seemed that he understood their situation very well. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the man in front of her. For some reason, she vaguely felt that she had seen this person somewhere before, but she could not remember where. She did not have a deep impression of him. However, after Di Beichen looked at the man for a moment, the corners of his lips curled into a faint smile. "So it's you. I really didn't expect you to be first in this competition. If I had known, I wouldn't have told you, the man said with a chuckle. After Bailey Hongzhuang heard this, she thought carefully for a moment before remembering where she had seen this person before. That's the person who told us to get the numbered identity card back then? Miss, you have a good memory. I thought you had forgotten about me. The man chuckled. Let me introduce myself. I'm Mu Haiqing. Just as Di Beichen was about to introduce himself, he heard the man say, Young Master D. Miss Bailey, I already know. Everyone has amazed everyone in the demon-slaying competition. There aren't many people in Shiyun City who don't know you. I didn't expect to see young Master Mu here again. Nice to meet you. Mu Haiqing cupped his hands. It's fate that brought us together. I don't have any ill intentions. I just want to remind you that I vaguely heard that Bai Luchuan and Guan Hongtian seem to have some plans. In short, these two people are full of evil tricks. It's always good to be on guard at all times. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows revealed a trace of surprise. This person is really interesting. Could it be that he likes to meddle in other people's business? If it were an ordinary person, they would definitely not be willing to offend Guan Bai Luchuan. They would not get involved in such matters if they could. However, this person actually took the initiative to get involved. After saying this, Mu Haiqing turned around and walked away. This person is strange. He said such a sentence without any rhyme or reason. I wonder if he is a friend or foe. Di Beichen looked at Gong Jun. Have you heard of this person? Mu Haiqing, this name sounds familiar to me, but I can't recall it at the moment. Let me think about it first. Gong Jun's brows were tightly knitted. It was obvious that he had some recollection of this person. Seeing this, Zai Hongren didn't urge him. Even if Gong Jun really couldn't remember after the birthday banquet was over, he would go back and check. However, Gong Jun's memory did not disappoint everyone. Very soon he remembered everything. I remember now. This Mu Haiqing. Quickly tell me, who is he? Zhongli Mu asked curiously. Gong Jun's expression changed. Speaking of this Mu Haiqing, he is also a character. However, he and Bai Luchuan can be said to be mortal enemies on the surface. Chapter 6684. Speaking of which, back then Bai Luchuan and Mu Hailan were a match made in heaven, attracting the envy of many. City Lord Bai had always liked to fulfill the wishes of others. After learning of their feelings, he set up a marriage contract. At that time, Mu Haiqing and Bai Luchuan's relationship was very good. However, Bai Luchuan was a womanizer. Back then he liked Mu Hailan because she was beautiful, but as a man, there were many who changed their minds. Not long after the marriage, Bai Luchuan continued to be a womanizer. Later on, this matter became more and more strained. Mu Haiqing was very angry when he saw Bai Luchuan treat Mu Hailan in such a way. He often found opportunities to teach Bai Luchuan a lesson. Bai Luchuan wasn't weak either. When the two of them fought, they naturally won and lost. A wistful look appeared on Gong Jun's face. I remember that Mu Hailan was already pregnant back then. However, Bai Luchuan had another fight with Mu Haiqing. When he returned and saw Mu Hailan crying, he was extremely angry. The exact situation that day has been sealed by City Lord Manor. All we know is that Mu Hailan died that night. From then on, Mu Haiqing and Bai Luchuan became mortal enemies. After hearing all of this, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression gradually turned cold. As a woman, Mu Hailan's experience was truly worthy of sympathy. I originally thought that Bai Luchuan was terrible enough, but I never expected him to be so terrible. She couldn't determine how Mu Hailan died, but she was certain that it had something to do with Bai Luchuan. Such a man is worse than an animal. Di Xiaofeng spat inwardly. As a man, he looked down on such people the most. Mu Hailan was blind back then. She actually fell for such a fellow. What a pity. Gong Jun shook his head. What I can be sure of is that Mu Haiqing really hates Bai Luchuan. The reason why he has been staying in Shiyun City is probably to kill Bai Luchuan to avenge his sister. Bailey Hongzhuang and company had a look of understanding in their eyes. If they were in Mu Haiqing's shoes, they would probably want to kill that bastard. From the looks of it, Mu Haiqing is on our side, Di Beichen said slowly. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Mu Hailan's help and his reminder made sense now. Then what did he remind us of just now? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. After finding out that Mu Haiqing was not an enemy, his previous warning became very interesting. Mo Yunjua looked around and his face darkened. Don't tell me they're going to play some tricks on this occasion? I don't think there will be any problems with today's situation. Gong Jun's expression also became a little more serious. Today, almost all the reputable people in Shiyun City were here. If something were to happen, it would be very embarrassing. Let's wait and see. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was as usual as she walked to the side and picked up a piece of pastry to taste. So far nothing had happened. If they were too nervous they would be at a disadvantage. Qingyang City's city lord has arrived. At this moment, a loud voice sounded from outside the door. Hearing this voice, everyone present could not help but look outside the door. In their line of sight, a tall and straight figure slowly appeared in front of Bai Ziyuan. Brother Yang, welcome, welcome. Chapter 6685. Haha, you're an honored guest. It's not a big deal today, so I've troubled you to come. Bai Ziyuan smiled. You're treating me like an outsider. We've known each other for many years. How could I not come to your birthday celebration? Yang Han turned to the man and woman behind him and said, quickly greet Uncle Bai. Uncle Bai. Bailey Hongzhuang saw a very young man and woman. The two people's eyebrows were somewhat similar. Obviously they were brother and sister. Nephew and niece are both here. Quickly come in. Bai Ziyuan called Bai Qingli and Bai Luchuan over. You young people can interact with each other. Father, don't worry. Bai Qingli nodded. Bai Ziyuan did not continue to stand outside the door. Clearly, he had been waiting outside for City Lord Yang's arrival. As everyone took their seats, the banquet officially began. City Lord Bai was not very formal, so the entire City Lord's mansion was very comfortable. Xiao He and Xiao Bai ate the snacks in front of them to their heart's content. The food the City Lord's mansion took out to entertain people was naturally not bad. It was much better than what they usually ate in restaurants. During this process, many people took the initiative to befriend Di Beichen and the others. After all, they were first place in the demon-slaying competition. There was no harm in befriending such young talents. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze fell into the distance. There were many alchemists participating in the banquet today. Ever since the competition ended, she had wanted to get to know some alchemists. She did not know much about the demon crystal alchemy, and she had never tried to refine it directly. If she could take advantage of today's opportunity to befriend a few people, it would be very good. However, she did not know much about the people of Shiyun City. It was not appropriate to rashly disturb them. In this regard, Gong Jun was also unable to help. He was a businessman. Although alchemists often dealt with shops and auctions, they were often unwilling to pay attention to such occasions. It was as if this was the only way to show their noble temperament. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was deep in thought, Bai Qingli walked over again. Miss Bailey, let me introduce you. This is Apothecary Wei Shang. He is also the apothecary who often treats me. A man who looked to be in his 50s stood beside Bai Qingli. Unlike the arrogance of the other pharmacists, he had a kind of amiable kindness. When he saw Bailey Hongzhuang, he was the first to smile. Little friend Bailey, nice to meet you. Greetings, Medicine Master Wei, Bailey Hongzhuang said politely. Ever since Medicine Master Wei saw my injuries, he's been hoping to get to know you. Since we're all here today, why don't you have a chat? Bai Qingli winked at Bailey Hongzhuang and transmitted her voice. Medicine Master Wei is very famous in Shiyun City. He can be considered a highly respected senior. Thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She secretly thought that Bai Qingli was very smart. She knew what she needed and immediately sent it over. Since this person was highly respected, he must be very skilled in alchemy. If she did not understand anything, she could ask him for advice. Little friend Bailey, I saw that Qingli's injuries were very serious. I wonder what kind of medicine you used to improve his condition? Chapter 6686. It's indeed inappropriate for me to rashly ask about this. However, this old man has been racking his brains recently and still can't figure it out. I hope that little friend can enlighten me. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't reject Wei Shang's politeness. Senior, at that time I could only do my best to treat her. Bailey Hongzhuang knew very well that if she wanted to know what she wanted to know from the other party, she would have to tell him something first. Therefore she didn't hide this point. After all, the more sincere she was now, the more difficult it would be for Wei Shang to avoid answering her questions later. As she explained the meaning of the treatment method at that time, a trace of understanding appeared on Wei Shang's face. It turns out that these few medicinal herbs have such a curative effect when added together. It was really enlightening. I was a bit stubborn before. After Wei Shang understood, he finally understood that when many medicinal herbs were put together, they would have a completely different effect. The method that Bailey Hongzhuang mentioned was like the finishing touch. Usually, people wouldn't use such a method when treating people, and changing the way of thinking would give them a completely different feeling. Seeing Wei Shang's look of sudden realization, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a little funny. This situation was just like when she listened to Granny Hua's explanation. Granny Hua's attainments in this field were definitely not comparable to ordinary people. At that time, she was in this kind of new thinking every day. However, as her thinking expanded, she realized that there were many ways to treat people, and changing the way of thinking often had unexpected results. However, there was one thing that she didn't tell Wei Shang. The effect of these medicinal herbs was excellent, but Bai Qingli's injuries were too critical at that time. Even if she used these medicinal herbs, she might not be able to recover. The reason why she was able to completely recover was because she used the Saintis crystal. This kind of treasure was not something that ordinary items could compare to. Naturally, its effects were needless to say. Obviously, Wei Shang didn't think too much about it. He probably didn't know how serious Bai Qingli's injuries were at that time. Little friend Bailey is so young, yet you already have such shocking attainments in the field of medicine. This is truly admirable. In the future, your name will definitely resound throughout the immortal realms. Wei Shang looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in amazement. With just a few words, he had already discovered that Bailey Hongzhuang had a completely different way of thinking from them. This kind of thing was already very shocking at the moment. In the future, as long as Bailey Hongzhuang continued to develop, her influence would definitely expand rapidly. Senior, you flatter me. I don't dare to be your senior. To be honest, your comprehension in this aspect is much deeper than mine, Yi Zichen said with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. Looking at the situation, wasn't Wei Shang a little too careless? Little friend, you can just call me by my name. After all, you're much younger than me. It's not good for me to address you as my senior. How about we treat each other as equals? Looking at Wei Shang's expectant expression, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head. She couldn't help but think of the few old fellows she knew in the past. They also had the same personality. It was really nostalgic. Then I'll overstep. No. Chapter 6687. Wei Shang's status among the pharmacists in Xi'an City was not simple. Guan Hongtian did not expect Bai Qingli to take such good care of Bailey Hongzhuang and specially introduce her to Pharmacist Wei. From the way they chatted happily, Pharmacist Wei should also be very fond of Bailey Hongzhuang. He had thought that these guys had just arrived in Xi'an City and that it would be easy to take them down. He did not expect that in just a short period of time, these guys' foundation would become more and more stable. Young Master Lu Chuan, Bai Qingli takes such good care of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. If this continues, it will be even more difficult for us to take them down in the future. Guan Hongtian looked to his side worriedly. Previously, due to the framing incident, the Wanbao Pavilion's reputation had been greatly affected. Their business had also suffered a lot. On the other hand, the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's reputation was becoming more and more resounding. In the end, the Immortal Treasure Pavilion had always relied on Di Baichen's confinement-killing array and Bailey Hongzhuang's pills. In fact, he knew very well that although the two of them had always been providing the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, they had put more effort into cultivation. Therefore, these could only be the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's last resort. However, recently, some pharmacists and refiners in the city had turned to the Immortal Treasure Pavilion for sale. This made him very unhappy. Evil King's beloved wife, arrogant demon concubine is too heaven-defying. In the past, the Wanbao Pavilion had always been everyone's first choice. Isn't it all because of your incompetence in the past? Bai Luchuan looked at Guan Hongtian with disdain. It was clearly a good hand, but this guy had ruined it. I didn't expect this to happen. Then why didn't you buy a few more array stones back then and study them properly? Wouldn't you have found the problem if you had observed more? Bai Luchuan said coldly. Guan Hongtian was speechless. He had indeed failed in that matter, but leaving a mark on an array stone was indeed something that had never happened before. Be careful in the future. If something like this happens again, don't expect me to help you. Yes. Bai Liuchuan's gaze turned to Bailey Hongzhuang. This woman was becoming more and more smug. It made him very unhappy. Let's wait for a good show today. I'll let them have a good taste of what it's like to be defeated. His pitch-black eyes narrowed slightly, revealing resentment and viciousness. Because of these guys, it was the first time he had been punished by the city lord, and he had been confined for so long. It was simply a great humiliation. Sister Qinshua, why are you here alone? I thought brother was taking care of you. Bai Luchuan walked to Yang Qinshua's side with a smile. Yang Qingxue raised her eyebrows. Brother Qingli brought pharmacist Wei over there. They must be busy. Having said that, Lu Qinyue's gaze constantly fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Bai Luchuan took in everything as a plan surfaced in his mind. So Big Brother went to look for Miss Bailey. No wonder. Miss Bailey? Yang Qingshua's expression immediately changed when she heard this name. Clearly she had been silently paying attention. Bai Luchuan nodded calmly. Previously, Big Brother was injured in the demon slaying competition and almost lost his life. It was all thanks to Miss Bailey that he was saved. She is Big Brother's savior. Chapter 6688. Miss Bailey has indeed saved Big Brother's life. However, her strength is also extremely outstanding. Her medical skills have also reached perfection. Currently, who knows how many men in the entire Shiyun city have fallen in love with her. However, ordinary men are obviously unable to enter her eyes. Bai Luchuan smiled, and there was a trace of yearning between his eyebrows. In Yang Qingshua's eyes, it was his admiration for Bailey Hongzhuang. These words just happened to poke at the problem that she was most concerned about. She had always been known as a beauty, but after coming here today she found that this woman's appearance was simply astonishing. Even she couldn't help but feel a sense of inferiority. If she did not see it with her own eyes, it would be difficult to imagine that such a peerless beauty existed in the world. When she saw Bailey Hongzhuang's sweet smile, she felt more and more jealous. Brother Qingli had never been close to women. However, this Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed a little too special. Medicine Master Wei, I also have something to ask you. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw that Wei Shang had recovered from the previous question, she took the opportunity to ask her own question. Little friend, there's no harm in asking. I heard that the demon crystals of monsters can be used to refine pills. This is the first time I've seen a monster. I'm really curious about this demon crystal. I hope Medicine Master Wei can give me some advice. Hearing this, Wei Shang understood and immediately said with a smile, I see. All medicine masters who have just entered the chaotic immortal realm are usually very interested in this. Today I'll explain it to you. Thank you, Medicine Master Wei. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She was originally worried that her question would delay Wei Shang's time. It would be bad if she made him impatient. However, she did not expect Wei Shang to be so interested in chatting with her. She was completely relieved. Actually, many medicine masters only began to study the demon crystals after the appearance of monsters a few years ago. The demon crystals of monsters are usually blood red and have different attributes. However, most of them are of the dark attribute. As long as the impurities in these demon crystals were removed, the remaining energy could be said to be very pure. If used in medicine, the effect would be excellent. According to our observations, pills of different attributes only need to be refined with demon crystals of different attributes, and the quality of the pills refined will be higher. So it has such an effect. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood. She had also thought about this before. Don't look at how it only increased the quality of the pill by one level. In fact, the gap between the two was very big. It was the same medicinal herbs, but with the addition of demon crystals, the effect of the elixir had improved so much. Perhaps the commonly used pills weren't much, but there were some pills that cultivators couldn't take too many times. Naturally, the better the effect, the better. Even so, it's not easy to refine the impurities in the demon crystal. Wei Shang looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's happy expression and knew that she was oversimplifying things, so she deliberately emphasized the main point. The demon crystals of these monsters often contain a lot of violent qi, blood, cruelty, and other negative emotions. Only by completely removing these things can the best effect be brought out. According to our current progress, there are very few medicine masters who can completely remove these impurities. Aside from a few occasional situations where it could be done, it was extremely difficult to do so at any other time. Chapter 6689. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded in understanding. Monsters hadn't been around for a long time, and all the pharmacists in Xi'an City were probably researching them. It would take a lot of time to thoroughly study them. However, she had a few more tricks up her sleeves than the average pharmacist. Since she possessed both darkness and light attributes, it would be easier for her to remove the impurities compared to people with other attributes. Regardless, she would go back and do some research after today's birthday banquet. Wei Shang saw the expression on Bailey Hongzhuang's face and understood that his words had not stopped her curiosity. Thinking about it, such a young girl already had such achievements. Even if she spent more time studying it, what's the point of it? As a pharmacist, it was important to maintain some curiosity. Little friend Bailey, you haven't been in Xi'an City for long. Coincidentally, there are many pharmacists here today. How about I introduce you to the other pharmacists? Wei Shang loved Bailey Hongzhuang from the bottom of his heart. At his age, the happiest thing for him was to see a young person doing well. There were many people in the city whose medical skills couldn't compare to Bailey Hongzhuang's, but they were much more impetuous and arrogant. Bailey Hongzhuang was such a simple-minded girl, but she was like a clear stream, making people like her very much. Bailey Hongzhuang looked up and saw the kindness and admiration in Wei Shang's eyes. She nodded in agreement. Thank you very much, Pharmacist Wei. You're welcome. With your strength, as long as you continue to stay in Xi'an City, you'll get to know these people sooner or later. After greeting Di Beichen, Bailey Hongzhuang followed Wei Shang to where the other pharmacists were gathered. Pharmacist Wei. Pharmacist Wei. The pharmacists who were chatting happily restrained themselves when they saw Wei Shang appear. Their postures were respectful. Wei Shang smiled faintly. Long time no see, everyone. Pharmacist Wei is usually busy studying medicine and rarely goes out. Naturally, it's rare to see him. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to meet him today. Pharmacist Wei, this one has something to ask of you today. In the blink of an eye, the group of pharmacists had surrounded Wei Shang. As for Bailey Hongzhuang behind him, she was completely ignored. Seeing this, Wei Shang suddenly spoke up. Everyone, please calm down. We'll talk about this matter later. Today I'd like to introduce a little friend to everyone. He turned his head and pushed Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him. Little friend Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills are already outstanding at such a young age. As Wei Shang's voice fell, everyone's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Although many people there tut asked ts. Now that this girl had appeared in front of them again, they couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable. But when they heard Wei Shang call Bailey Hongzhuang little friend, they understood Wei Shang's admiration for her. So it's little friend Bailey Hongzhuang. Nice to meet you. I've long heard of yours. Seeing you today, you're indeed extraordinary. The few compliments were scattered. Just by listening to them, one could tell how distant they were. Chapter 6690. When Wei Shang saw everyone's attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang, he couldn't help but frown. Could it be that something had happened that he wasn't aware of? Otherwise, everyone's attitude was a little strange. You all really know how to act. A man looked disdainfully at the people who were feigning civility. This smile is uglier than crying. I don't know what's so funny. Niu Su, don't go overboard with your words. How am I going overboard? Isn't that the truth? Niu Su's face was full of disdain. I think that Miss Bailey is not only outstanding in medical skills, her poison skills are also first class. I really admire you, I really admire you. His drawn-out tone was full of ridicule, and even the stupidest person could understand that he was deliberately insulting her. However, Bailey Hongzhuang acted as if she didn't hear any of this and smiled faintly. You flatter me? Niu Su's expression was blank and his heart was instantly filled with anger. As a doctor, you actually poison people. I can't learn this kind of method. After coldly throwing this sentence, Niu Su turned around and walked away. His manner clearly showed that he disdained to be associated with Bailey Hongzhuang. When the crowd saw that someone had taken the lead, they couldn't be bothered to pretend anymore and retreated to the side with waning interest. Wei Shang obviously didn't expect this situation. According to his conversation with this girl, he felt that this girl was very polite and wasn't like what everyone said. Medicine Master Wei, I've let you down. Hongzhuang naturally didn't care about the thoughts of others, but she couldn't help but feel apologetic towards Medicine Master Wei. However, these fellows were all too petty. It had been quite a while since that incident and they still hadn't let it go. This breadth of mind? I didn't understand the situation clearly. Wei Shang shook his head with an apologetic look on his face. Little friend, can you tell me what happened just now? Bailey Hongzhuang didn't mind and immediately recounted what had happened. After hearing everything, Wei Shang laughed. I see, no wonder everyone has such an attitude. You don't mind? Wei Shang said indifferently, as an alchemist, if you can heal others, you can naturally harm others as well. At this point, who can say that they have never harmed others? They are merely trying to save face, so there is really no need to care about it. However, from your appearance, I believe that you do not take it to heart. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. It's not a big deal. I'm already very happy to have met you today. Haha, so do I. The two chatted for a while before Wei Shang left. Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to find Beichen, but she found a figure blocking her way. Looking at the beautiful woman in front of her, there was a trace of surprise in her eyes. Wasn't this person City Lord Yang's daughter? You like Brother Qingli? Yang Qingxue stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and got straight to the point. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Yang Qingxue in astonishment. This girl had suddenly appeared in front of her and asked such a strange question. However, she quickly understood that Yang Qingxue must be in love with Bai Qingli. Yang Qingxue had originally thought that all women couldn't resist looking at Bailey Hongzhuang up close. However, after looking at Bailey Hongzhuang up close, she found Bailey Hongzhuang to be even more perfect. Miss Yang, you're mistaken. I have no feelings towards Master Bai. Chapter 6691. If you like him, then you like him. What's there to deny? Yang Qingxue looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with some disdain. If you admit it frankly, I can still think highly of you. Being so timid makes me unhappy. Seeing Yang Qingxue's worried, jealous, and conflicted look, Bailey Hongzhuang also found it very interesting. It was rare to see a girl with such a genuine temperament. I'm already married. Faced with Yang Qingxue's disbelief, Bailey Hongzhuang could only use her ultimate move. The effect of this move should be the most obvious. Sure enough, after hearing this, Yang Qingxue was dumbfounded. You. What did you just say? Bailey Hongzhuang pointed at Di Beichen not far away and said, That's my husband. Di Beichen noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's actions and walked over. As soon as he came over, he said, Wife, what's wrong? After hearing this address, Yang Qingxue completely understood that she had made a mistake. She felt that she had thought of him as an imaginary enemy for a long time, but it turned out that he was already taken. She did not have any improper thoughts at all. Immediately she felt awkward. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Yang Qingxue felt ashamed for a moment. She cursed Bai Luchuan in her heart. It was all his fault for saying such inexplicable things to her, causing her to come here and embarrass herself. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, Mistakes are common. Miss Yang is a thoughtful person. I'm sure you'll get what you want. Looking at the woman's understanding look, Yang Qingxue's face turned red. Her original thoughts of tit-for-tat dissipated. Such a woman really made people want to befriend her. Thank you for saving Brother Qingli. If there's anything I can help you with in the future, don't hesitate. After understanding this point, Yang Qingxue returned to her original straightforward personality. Then I'll thank Miss Yang first. You're welcome. I should be the one thanking you first. Yang Qingxue smiled and waved her hand. You guys continue chatting. I'm leaving. Seeing Yang Qingxue leave like a wisp of smoke, Di Beichen thought of the previous changes, and his heart had some understanding. It seems that Madame has been treated as a love rival? Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head and saw Di Beichen's jealous face. She immediately smiled and said, I have such a good husband. How could I be involved in such a thing? With just one sentence, Di Beichen's face turned from gloomy to sunny, as bright as the sun. It must be Bai Luchuan and company who wanted to cause some trouble. However, I never expected wife to be so efficient. Bailey Hongzhuang followed Di Beichen's gaze and realized that Yang Qingxue had already rushed to find Bai Luchuan. Is Bai Luchuan stupid? He clearly knows our relationship, but he still said such words to make Yang Qingxue misunderstand? The woman frowned slightly. She really couldn't understand this method. It was really unwise. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. That's because he doesn't know that wife's love for me is stronger than gold. He only thinks that she's like an ordinary woman trying to curry favor with a powerful man. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Isn't this fellow underestimating me too much? At the same time, Yang Qingxue was aggressively questioning Bai Luchuan. This fellow was deliberately messing with her and embarrassing her. Chapter 6692. Yang Qingxue looked at Bai Luchuan suspiciously. She originally wanted to teach this fellow a lesson, but when she saw his puzzled expression, she was immediately puzzled. Could it really be like this? Bailey Hongzhuang only glanced at it and did not continue paying attention. There was a hint of thought in her eyes. Could this be the matter that Mu Haiqing came to remind us of? Di Beichen also calmed his thoughts and said, if it's just this, then it's too simple. As the daughter of Qingyang City Lord, Yang Qinshua's identity was naturally not simple. However, once the matter of a love rival began, it would naturally be very complicated. However, it was also very simple to resolve it. If this was the only big move that Bai Luchuan had prepared, then it would be too simple. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Her point of view was the same as Di Beichen's. There should be something that they had not noticed. At this moment, the two city lords were chatting happily. Seeing that City Lord Yang was chatting happily, Bai Qingli took the opportunity to make his request. Illusory form pearl? When City Lord Yang heard that Bai Qingli wanted the illusory form pearl, surprise appeared on his face. Could it be that your demon beast is unable to take human form? Bai Qingli saw that although City Lord Yang was very surprised, he did not show any signs of unwillingness on his face. He knew that there was hope for this matter. Uncle, the one who needs the illusory form pearl is not me but my friend. Hearing this, City Lord Yang was even more puzzled. His gaze unconsciously swept across Yang Qinshua's face. You're a friend? Up until now, he knew very well that Bai Qingli spent most of his time in seclusion. Although he had friends, he did not have many. At this moment, he actually came to ask for the illusory form pearl for a friend. This was really not in line with his character. He had always hoped that Bai Qingli could be together with Qinshuo. However, he did not know whether the friend he mentioned was a man or a woman. Bai Qingli clearly didn't realize these problems and immediately nodded. This person is my savior. If it wasn't for her, I'm afraid I would have lost my life this time. After returning from this trip, I have always wanted to repay her. Coincidentally, I heard that her monster beast is unable to take human form, and this illusory form pearl is exactly what she needs. Therefore, I want to use this to repay her kindness. I hope that uncle can part with it. Only then did City Lord Yang understand, and the vigilance in his heart dissipated a little. Bai Ziyuan also said, Brother Yang, this illusory form bead isn't of much use to you, so why don't you give it to my son? Aren't you very interested in my calligraphy and paintings? If you like it, why don't you choose one later? City Lord Yang's eyes lit up. You brat, you usually treat that painting like a treasure. I didn't expect you to be so generous today. Of course I have to repay you for saving my life. Today I'll be generous. City Lord Yang chuckled. Since that's the case, I naturally won't be stingy. I'll just give this illusion form bead to you. A round bead emitting a dazzling luster appeared in Yang Han's hand. It was the illusory form bead that could help demonic beasts transform. Master. Xiao He looked forward excitedly. From the moment the illusory form bead appeared, it clearly sensed that this was a treasure. Xiao Bai's eyes also lit up. Could this be the illusory form bead? Why do I feel like this is what I've been missing? Chapter 6693. It seems that you won't be far from transforming. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xiao He and Xiao Bai with a smile. She had been thinking about how to let the two little fellows transform into their human forms, but she couldn't find a way. However, as long as they obtained the illusory form pearl, they would be able to see Xiao He or Xiao Bai transform into their human forms. The only helpless thing was that there was only one illusory form pearl at the moment. If the two little fellows wanted to transform, they naturally had to find another illusory form pearl. Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't in a hurry. Since she already knew that such a treasure existed in the world, if she could find the first one, there was probably a chance to find the second one. It was only a matter of time. Xiao He and Xiao Bai couldn't hide their excitement. Bai Shi and Xiao Xuanzi had followed their master for a shorter time than them and had long transformed into their human forms. Only they were still in this state. Fortunately, they had finally found a way to change. Bai Qingli is still very trustworthy. She said that she would fight for the illusory form pearl for us, so she will fight for it. Xiao He looked at Bai Qingli, who was not far away, and immediately had a good impression of him. Just as Bai Qingli was about to take the illusory form pearl, Bai Liuchuan's voice suddenly sounded. City Lord Yang, this Miss Bai Li's medical skills are known to be the best in Xi'an City. I previously asked her about your young master's condition and she said that there shouldn't be a problem. Why don't we ask her to help treat him? As soon as these words were said, the originally joyous atmosphere immediately froze. City Lord Yang's expression suddenly turned cold and he quietly retracted his outstretched hand. Bai Ziyuan's expression also changed as he looked at Bai Luchuan with a hint of reprimand. For him to say such words in this kind of situation, he was clearly rubbing salt in the wound. However, Bai Ziyuan also understood that the reason why Bai Luchuan did this was to prevent Bailey Hongzhuang from getting what she wanted. This fellow had been locked up for so long, but he still hadn't figured this out. It was really disappointing. Bai Qingli's expression also darkened. How could he not understand that this was City Lord Yang's taboo? Bai Luchuan had actually mentioned it in front of so many people. City Lord Yang's mood would definitely be affected. What's more, because no alchemist had been able to cure him all these years, and there was an alchemist who looked down on everyone and said outrageous things, City Lord Yang never had a good impression of alchemists. If he had a good impression of Bailey Hongzhuang previously because she had saved him, then Bai Liuchuan's words had completely destroyed City Lord Yang's good impression of Bailey Hongzhuang. I don't know what kind of ability this Miss Bailey has to speak so arrogantly. It's really unexpected. City Lord Yang sneered. He had already taken back the illusory form bead. From his cold expression, it was clear that it would be very difficult to obtain the illusory form bead again. Uncle, there might be some misunderstanding. Miss Bailey isn't that kind of person. Bai Qingli couldn't help but say. In that case, Luchuan is lying? City Lord Yang asked. Bai Qingli's voice faltered. Although he knew that Bai Luchuan was looking for trouble, he couldn't say all of this in front of so many people. Otherwise, wouldn't he be completely disrespecting Bai Luchuan? Bai Luchuan naturally knew that Bai Qingli had no other choice under such circumstances. Immediately he became even more fearless. Chapter 66-94. This sudden change caught everyone off guard. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw this scene, her expression turned gloomy. So, Bai Liuchuan's real plan is here. At that moment, Bailey Hongzhuang understood everything. The reason why Bai Luchuan had said those words to Yang Qinxue was to make her hate him. When these things happened again, Yang Qinxue would definitely help him. However, he didn't expect Yang Qinxue to directly question him. In fact, if it were any other woman, they would only feel resentment under such circumstances and wouldn't ask directly. He had just misjudged Yang Qinxue's personality. Di Beichen frowned slightly as his deep eyes revealed a trace of coldness. Xiao He and Xiao Bai had always held a high position in their hearts. Transforming into human forms had always been their wish, but Bai Luchuan wanted to destroy all of this. It was truly abominable. Hongzhuang, does City Lord Yang's son have a hidden illness? Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but ask when he saw this. He had previously noticed City Lord Yang's son. He was young, handsome, and had an extraordinary manner of speech. It didn't seem like there was anything wrong with him. My world, City of Dreams. Bailey Hongzhuang also turned her head to look. This person doesn't seem to have any problems on the surface. I didn't notice it before, but from City Lord Yang's taboo appearance, there should be a problem. If that's the case, wouldn't it be fine if you can treat him? Di Xiaofeng's brows were filled with concern. He was very confident in Hongzhuang's medical skills. Bai Luchuan knows that Hongzhuang's medical skills are good, but he still said such words. It seems that this young master's illness should be very difficult to treat. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken the initiative to give Hongzhuang a chance to become famous, Mo Yunjue said slowly in a deep voice. Di Beichen nodded slightly. Today, I'm afraid that not only does he want us to fail to obtain the illusion form bead, but he also wants City Lord Yang to hate us. When Mayor Yang saw that Bai Qingli didn't say anything else, his face remained gloomy. Even when he looked at Bai Ziyuan, there was a trace of anger. Looking at Yang Han's appearance, Bai Ziyuan secretly sighed in his heart. This matter was originally Yang Han's taboo, and it had been mentioned in front of so many people. At a glance, many people were quietly sizing up Yang Lingfeng, guessing exactly what kind of hidden illness he had. Vampire Daddy, unparalleled queen, City Lord Yang. This matter. Bai Qingli wanted to say something more, but she was stopped by Bai Ziyuan's gaze. Now that things had come to this, it was useless for them to say anything more. If he continued, it would only make Yang Han even more unhappy. City Lord Yang also understood that today was Bai Ziyuan's birthday. Naturally, he couldn't be angry with him. However, he didn't mention this matter again. At this moment, Yang Qinshua's voice suddenly sounded. Father, I got to know this Miss Bailey earlier and felt that she was a good person. She shouldn't be speaking without thinking. When these words came out, everyone present was stunned. They didn't expect Yang Qinxue to speak up for Bailey Hongzhuang at this time. Bai Qingli looked at Yang Qinxue in surprise. She knew Qinshue's personality very well. Generally speaking, it was already good that she didn't provoke others. It was really unexpected that she would take the initiative to speak up for them. Chapter 6695. Yang Qinshua's words were very skillful. According to Bai Luchuan, Bailey Hongzhuang was young and impetuous and thought highly of herself. However, with her words, it became that she indeed had true ability and wasn't bragging. Yang Han was in a bad mood, but with his daughter speaking up for him, the dissatisfaction in his heart dissipated slightly. He knew Qinshua's personality very well. If the other party didn't have some ability, she would definitely not speak up for others. Bai Qingli looked at Yang Qinshu gratefully. He had already promised Bailey Hongzhuang today. If he couldn't fulfill it, it would be difficult for him to explain. Although he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't blame him, he still couldn't help but feel depressed that he couldn't do what he had promised. Yang Qinshu also winked at Bai Qingli. Ever since she found out that the girl was married, she no longer had any enmity towards her. If she could help Qingli Gij complete this repayment, it would undoubtedly be for the best. Among everyone, only Bai Luchuan had a look of disbelief. He had gone through so much trouble to make Yang Qinshu feel dissatisfied with Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, not only was she not dissatisfied, she had even become a helper. Since Qinshu has seen it, I'll give you this illusory form bead. Yang Han sighed. Although his expression was still somewhat ugly, he still decided to hand the illusory form bead to Bai Qingli. After all, it was something he had promised. As an elder, it wasn't good for him to not relent. It was just that his impression of Bailey Hongzhuang was still not good. Thank you, uncle. Bai Qingli's voice was filled with excitement. He quickly put away the illusory form bead. It was as if the illusory form bead would be snatched away if he was a step too late. Upon seeing this scene, Yang Han couldn't help but laugh. How could he usually see Bai Qingli in such a state? Bai Liuchuan's expression was extremely ugly. He had deliberately appeared at this moment to ruin everything. Who would have thought that this calculated step would be so easily destroyed by Yang Qinshu? Bai Ziyuan heaved a sigh of relief and said to Bai Qingli, "Your uncle Yang is really good to you?" "I know." Bai Qingli smiled. The next moment, Bai Ziyuan turned his gaze to Bai Luchuan. As the slightly cold gaze swept over him, Bai Luchuan knew that something was wrong. The city lord was an intelligent and far-sighted person, and this little trick of his would definitely not escape his eyes. Long he knew that he would be punished, and he had yet to complete. If he were to return, and if he was punished, wouldn't he be a huge loss? With this in mind, Bai Luchuan almost immediately made up his mind. "Luchuan, go back first. Uncle Yang, since this Miss Bailey's medical skills are so good, why don't we let her treat you? She told me earlier that she was very confident. If she could succeed, that would be a good thing." Bai Liuchuan's face was filled with excitement. His look of anticipation made him look like he was wholeheartedly thinking about Yang Lingfeng. Not far away, Yang Lingfeng's face turned ugly when he heard the matter being brought up again. Was to be. By. Chapter 6696. Go back and reflect on yourself now. His cold voice was filled with anger and dignity. Bai Ziyuan no longer gave Bai Luchuan any face. This kid was becoming more and more lawless. He had repeatedly caused trouble at his birthday banquet just to avenge his personal grudges. It was obvious that he didn't take him, an elder, seriously at all. Seeing Bai Ziyuan's furious appearance, Bai Luchuan was somewhat stunned. For a moment he stood there in a daze and forgot to move. Even though he had already expected Bai Ziyuan to be angry, he didn't expect him to be so angry. He had never seen such a furious appearance before. Seeing that Bai Ziyuan was angry, Yang Han didn't say anything. He only looked at Bai Luchuan with a hint of dissatisfaction. It had been a while since he had come to Shiyun City, so he naturally didn't understand the grudges. However, no matter how ignorant he was, he understood that there should be some grudges between Bai Luchuan and Bailey Hongzhuang. Otherwise, he wouldn't have kept causing trouble. Since there was a personal grudge, and considering Bai Qingli and Qinshua's previous attitude, he roughly understood that perhaps all of this wasn't what Bailey Hongzhuang had said at all. It was just Bai Luchuan adding fuel to the fire. Everyone had been young and impetuous, so they were naturally no stranger to such methods of harming others for their own benefit. However, Bai Luchuan actually wanted to use him to deal with a young lady. What did he take him for? Yang Han narrowed his eyes and immediately came up with a plan. Since Luchuan is recommending her so seriously, I believe Miss Bailey's medical skills are indeed extraordinary. Otherwise, you wouldn't have needed to spend so much effort to recommend her. Then, after the banquet ends, I'll ask Miss Bailey to help with the diagnosis. With that said, Bai Ziyuan and the others looked at Yang Han in surprise. Brother Yang, Miss Bailey's medical skills are indeed not bad, but she's still a little young. Bai Ziyuan was a little worried. He admired this young girl very much. To be able to achieve such results at such a young age, as long as she continued to work hard, her future achievements were needless to say. Regardless of whether it was for the sake of Bailey Hongzhuang or for the sake of protecting young cultivators, he did not wish for Bailey Hongzhuang to get involved in this mess. Yang Han waved his hand indifferently. You don't have to be so worried. I'm just giving it a try because of Liu Chuan's recommendation. Would I make a move on such a junior? Even if it's for the sake of you and Qing Li, I wouldn't go that far. Seeing the sudden change in Yang Han's attitude, Bai Ziyuan felt a little relieved. They had known each other for so many years, and he knew that the former's personality was not the source of his ruthlessness. Things like venting his anger should not happen. He must have been angry with Lu Chuan, so he decided to give it a try today. Thinking of this, Bai Ziyuan sighed and shook his head. He used to think that Lu Chuan was a good seedling who would become a great talent in the future. Who would have thought that after all these years, his personality would become more and more narrow-minded? He also understood the hatred between young people. In the end, this hatred was between Guan Yi and Bailey Hongzhuang. It had nothing to do with Lu Chuan at all. He just wanted to be in the limelight and get involved. Instead of doing these useless things, it was better to cultivate properly. This was really putting his energy in the wrong place. Chapter 66-97. When Bai Luchuan heard that City Lord Yang was willing to give it a try, he couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. He knew very well that this matter had always been City Lord Yang's sore point. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't cure it and knew about it, this matter would inevitably become a thorn in City Lord Yang's side. But at this moment, seeing City Lord Yang's attitude, he felt that things didn't seem to be as he thought. What was going on with this completely different trajectory? Logically speaking, this shouldn't be the case. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were completely relieved after seeing Bai Qingli obtain the illusory form bead. They didn't have to worry about anything else for the time being. At least this thing had fallen into their pockets. With the City Lord's character, even if he was displeased later on, it was impossible for him to take this thing back. Bai Luchuan is really hateful. Fortunately, his scheme didn't succeed, hee. Xiaohei snickered. Previously, when City Lord Yang took the thing back, she was really disappointed. She didn't expect that the thing would come back after such a short while. Her mood fluctuated greatly. Bai Luchuan went for wool and came back shorn this time. A City Lord narrowed his eyes. His wise gaze swept across everyone on the stage and finally landed on Bai Luchuan's somewhat blank face. Anyone who could become a City Lord must have some skills. Their ability to see through people's hearts was also top-notch. If he didn't understand before, then when City Lord Yang agreed just now, he clearly felt the change in attitude. I originally thought that this guy had some ability and would have a lot of influence in Cloud City in the future, but recently he seems to be courting death more and more. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were deep. He had grown up in a family clan since he was young, so he understood this kind of power very well. Bai Luchuan had disappointed the City Lord in order to take revenge for his own grudge. This was simply a stupid move. Personal grudges were only for the sake of venting his anger. However, offending the City Lord meant that his future training would be greatly affected. Perhaps the resources he would enjoy from now on could not be compared to before, but this was extremely good news for them. Not long after, Bai Qingli and Yang Qingxue arrived beside Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Miss Bailey, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you with something later, Bai Qingli said with some difficulty. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, her delicate jade-like face showing some understanding. You mean to treat young Master Yang after the banquet? Looks like you already know. Bai Qingli smiled faintly. Don't worry, nothing will happen. Uncle Yang has always been magnanimous. You are so young, so he definitely won't hold it against you. You can rest assured. Yang Qingxue also said, that's right. I'll be here later, so you don't have to worry about anything else. It doesn't matter even if it can't be cured. This is a very difficult problem to solve. With you here, I naturally feel at ease, Bailey Hongzhuang said gently. I would like to ask, what kind of illness does young Master Yang have? She had also seen Yang Lingfeng's face. He didn't seem to have any very serious illness, nor did he seem to be poisoned. This made her feel very strange. Even if it was a hidden disease, it shouldn't have made City Lord Yang so angry. There must be something going on, but no one knew what it was. Chapter 6698. After a while, Yang Qingxue said, "There's no need to rush. You'll know after you treat him. If you can't, then forget it." Looking at the two of them, Hong Zhuang understood that they didn't want to talk about this matter, so he didn't ask any further. After all, he had to help with the treatment after it was over. When the time came, he would naturally understand everything. During the banquet, other than Xiao He and Xiao Bai who were eating happily, Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others were thinking about the treatment. In this absent-minded situation, the banquet ended very quickly. Not long after, Bai Qingli came to invite Bailey Hong Zhuang to the guest room. "Miss Bailey, come with me to the treatment." Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded slightly and immediately followed behind Bai Qingli. Di Beichen and the others didn't leave either. When Bai Qingli noticed this scene, she couldn't help but say, "Young Master Di, why don't you rest in this garden for a while and leave together after Miss Bailey is done?" To tell you the truth, Yang Lingfeng's condition has always been a secret. He is, after all, the son of the city lord. If someone were to find out about it, it would inevitably cause some trouble. I hope you can forgive him. Hearing this, Di Beichen and the others understood. "Then we'll wait here. Don't worry, I'll take good care of her." Bai Qingli said this to Di Beichen. Following behind Bai Qingli, Bailey Hong Zhuang walked all the way into the city lord's mansion. The city lord's mansion was really huge. The place where they were at the banquet was only a corner of it. It wasn't until they arrived at their destination that Bailey Hong Zhuang noticed that Bai Luchuan was still here. From the looks of it, he had to see the results today before he gave up. "Miss Bailey is here." A cold glint appeared in Bai Luchuan's eyes. He had offended two elders today in order to completely drag down Bailey Hong Zhuang. The so-called godly doctor was just an undeserved reputation. Ling Feng's illness has been going on for quite some time. He's seen many doctors, but none of them can cure him. Everyone says that you're the #1 alchemist in Shiyun City. I hope you can cure his illness. That would be great. Bai Luchuan revealed a look of concern. Although his words of concern landed in Bailey Hong Zhuang's ears, it clearly didn't mean that. "This guy is trying to kill me with excessive praise? Miss Bailey, please come in." Yang Han didn't intend to waste too much time. He opened the door and said. Bailey Hong Zhuang bowed slightly and walked into the room. After seeing Bailey Hong Zhuang, Yang Lingfeng's face was a little ugly, a bit uneasy. He really didn't want to, but today's matter had come to this point. There had to be an outcome. It was just that his illness. Facing such a peerless beauty, it was really difficult to talk about it. After Bailey Hong Zhuang noticed Yang Lingfeng's expression, she vaguely had some guesses in her heart. Looking at Yang Lingfeng's masculine appearance, it really didn't seem like it. "Young Master Yang, I'm Bailey Hong Zhuang." She slowly walked to the side and sat down before continuing, "I'm here to treat you. No matter what the situation is, you can tell me. As a doctor, you can rest assured of the most basic confidentiality. You don't have to worry about it. As a doctor, there is no gender distinction." Chapter 6699. Outside the house, Yang Han and the others also had worried looks on their faces. "Father, I believe that Ling Feng's problem will definitely be cured." Yang Qingxue naturally understood her father's worries. Didn't Apothecary Wei say that Miss Bailey's understanding of medicine is different from many apothecaries? She has a brand new line of thought that even Apothecary Wei was shocked. Perhaps, with her help, this situation can really be resolved. Bai Luchuan was worried that no one would help raise Bailey Hong Zhuang's status. Now that he heard Yang Qingxue say that, he immediately said with a smile, "Isn't that so? Miss Bailey's attainments in this area have never been simple. I believe in her." Yang Han glanced at Bai Luchuan indifferently. If it wasn't for Bai Ziyuan, he would have long chased this fellow out. Ling Feng's problem indeed needs to be resolved as soon as possible. If a good young man like him were to develop an inferiority complex because of this problem, I'm afraid it will be troublesome in the long run. Bai Ziyuan's voice was slightly heavy. To any man, this problem was very difficult to speak of. However, it would be even worse if he were to hide his illness for fear of treatment. Yang Han sighed. How could he not know this? Stealing face after such a long time, he could clearly sense that Ling Feng was becoming more and more taciturn. In the past he was a rather sunny kid, but now he only liked to be alone. Previously, a few apothecaries said that as long as we find the medical poison sage, Granny Hua, she can cure Ling Feng's illness. Unfortunately, this Granny Hua has disappeared for many years. No one knows where she went. Even though I've sent many people to inquire, there's no news at all. The medical poison sage, Granny Hua's medical skills and poison skills are top-notch. No one can compare to her. However, her temper is somewhat strange. Even if we know where she is, it's very difficult to ask her for help. However, since a few years ago she has never appeared in front of the world again. She must have hidden herself from the world. Bai Ziyuan's gaze was complicated. Once such an expert hid herself from the world, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to find her. Let's give it a try today. I feel that Miss Bailey's medical skills are indeed very exquisite. Bai Qingli was filled with confidence in Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills. However, in this aspect he really didn't believe it. After all, a girl probably wouldn't study this aspect. Jiu, who loves his wife till the end, when Bailey Hongzhuang found out that Yang Lingfeng really had erectile dysfunction, she couldn't help but feel a little confused. According to her observations, Yang Lingfeng didn't look like it. Young Master Yang, when did this matter begin? Bailey Hongzhuang looked serious. Although she was not good at this as a doctor, she naturally knew a little about it. It started when I went out to train 5 years ago and saw a girl being humiliated. Yang Lingfeng's expression was unsightly. He clearly didn't want to recall the scenes from back then. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang understood a little. This was not a physical illness, but a psychological one. No wonder she could not feel anything from his face. Young Master Yang, is it because this matter has affected you too much that you're acting like this? Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly, if that's the reason, then you have to overcome your psychological barrier. Chapter 6700. Are you sure you've really overcome it? Many people hypnotize themselves into thinking that they've overcome it, but in reality deep down they're still the same. They can't be shaken at all. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was serious. She once heard from her mother-in-law that psychological problems were the most difficult to solve because external influences were very small. One could only rely on oneself. Yang Lingfeng was originally very repulsed by female pharmacists. Even when his father agreed in front of so many people just now, he did not refuse because he wanted to save his father's face. But at this moment, looking at the serious and meticulous manner of the woman in front of him, the trace of hostility in his heart dissipated. Because from the beginning to the end, she did not show the slightest bit of ridicule. On the contrary, she had been very carefully thinking about the problem. I'm sure I've overcome it? Yang Lingfeng nodded. When I went out for training, it was my first time out. Usually, I've always been cultivating in the city lord's manor, so I've never experienced such a scene. So I was deeply shocked and somewhat depressed. But all these years, I've been exposed to a lot of things when I went out for training. I understand the cruelty between cultivators. Although this kind of thing doesn't happen often, many people might have experienced it before. I've deliberately experienced a lot of things because of this problem. My mentality also went from being nervous at the beginning to being calm later on. Listening to the man's steady narration, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood. Everything he said did not seem to be forcing himself. Instead, it was from the bottom of his heart that he had gradually adapted to all of this. Perhaps he had not completely let go of that matter, but it was already a lot better. Logically speaking, if you're gradually getting better, you should show it physiologically. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered. Yang Lingfeng smiled faintly. All these years, many pharmacists have treated me. Regarding this problem, they also couldn't understand it. Miss, if you don't understand, you don't have to worry. Maybe I haven't completely overcome it. Looking at the man's faint smile, Bailey Hongzhuang's impression of him changed. Originally, she only thought of him as a person with a strange temperament and did not like to talk much. But when he smiled, it was filled with a kind of spring breeze-like warmth. Thinking about it, before this incident, he must have been an optimistic and cheerful person. Bailey Hongzhuang carefully checked his pulse. His pulse was calm and steady, and it didn't seem like there was any problem. She had been a doctor for so long, but it was rare for her to encounter such a problem where she could not find any clues. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to withdraw her hand and confirm that it was a psychological problem, there was suddenly an abnormal beat in her steady pulse. Noticing this, her expression couldn't help but change slightly for a moment, and the hand that was about to withdraw tightened again. When Yang Lingfeng saw the change in Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, he was also a little surprised. He maintained his original position and did not move. As time passed, Bailey Hongzhuang kept feeling young Lingfeng's pulse. At that moment she had clearly noticed an abnormal heartbeat, but when she continued to take his pulse, it disappeared again. It was as if her previous discovery was simply an illusion. However, she was certain that that moment was not an illusion. It truly existed. Chapter 6701. Miss Bailey, what are you? Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had not moved an inch, Yang Lingfeng felt that the atmosphere was a little awkward and could not help but ask. However, Bailey Hongzhuang only shook her head slightly, indicating that he should not speak. This minute change was not obvious and needed to be carefully observed. Yang Lingfeng also kept his mouth shut, but his heart was filled with anticipation. Could it be that she had discovered something? After waiting for a while, Bailey Hongzhuang finally felt that abnormal pulse and her eyes lit up. She seemed to have discovered a problem. If it wasn't for the fact that she happened to run into this opportunity, she might have really missed it. This pulse was too subtle and would not have been discovered if one did not pay attention. Master Yang, 5 years ago, other than the scene that you saw with your own eyes, did anything else happen? Hearing this question, Yang Lingfeng's eyes flashed with a trace of suspicion. When this happened that year, I was also poisoned, but after Brother Qing Li and the others arrived, my poison was quickly cured. After that, nothing else happened in the years of training. Did you discover something? You were poisoned? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. What kind of poison was it? That poison was very strange. According to the person who poisoned me, this poison was very powerful. However, although I was poisoned, it did not take much effort to cure the poison, so I always thought that he was just talking nonsense and was just bluffing. Yang Lingfeng's face was calm, obviously disdainful of the man's words. This poison. I'm afraid there is indeed something strange about it. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows revealed a trace of thought. She didn't think about it before, so she didn't pay too much attention to it. At this moment, after discovering this clue, she carefully studied it and found the problem. Yang Lingfeng's expression changed. You're saying that the reason why I am like this is not because of a psychological problem, but because of the poison? None of the pharmacists had ever mentioned this before, and this thought shocked him greatly. If it was really because of the poison, then as long as the poison was cured, would he be able to recover? This problem has been in your body for a full 5 years, but it hasn't been discovered. Either the poison itself isn't very destructive, but the other party clearly said that this poison isn't simple, so it's very likely that this poison is a slow-acting poison. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression became serious. If this was the case, then everything had become complicated. This slow-acting poison often did not seem like much in the short term, but after a long time, it would penetrate deep into the internal organs and could cause death. Although Yang Lingfeng was not a pharmacist, he had seen many pharmacists over the years and had some understanding of this situation. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang did not say it, he knew the power of this slow-acting poison. All these years, this slow-acting poison for such a long time? Yang Lingfeng still couldn't believe it. Slow-acting poisons did exist, but it was rare to see one that could last for such a long time. Chapter 6702. Upon hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Yang Lingfeng's expression changed abruptly, as if he had recalled something. Seeing the change in the man's expression, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but ask, "Have you recalled something?" Back then, I had said that the poison was very serious and that ordinary antidote pills would not have any effect at all. Therefore, the antidote pills that they had brought out were of extremely high quality. It was said that this antidote pill seemed to be the antidote pill that the saint of medicine and poison Granny Hua had once sold. My father and the others had bought it at a high price. Granny Hua? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. She had not expected to hear Granny Hua's name again today. It seemed that Granny Hua's name was really resounding. Yang Lingfeng nodded slightly. Granny Hua's medical and poison skills can be said to be top-notch. Don't look at how Medicine Master Wei and the others' medical skills are not bad. They can't be compared to Granny Hua at all. All along, the pills that Granny Hua refined were hard to come by. However, Granny Hua had not appeared for a long time. Everyone said that as long as we could find Granny Hua, my problem would be easily solved. It's a pity that Granny Hua is nowhere to be found now. Bailey Hongzhuang heard this and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. It was true that they could not find Granny Hua now. However, the person in front of them was Granny Hua's disciple. Flourishing Age's favorite concubine. The demonic emperor takes advantage. Are you sure that other than some problems in this area, you don't feel any other discomfort? Bailey Hongzhuang confirmed once again. She had to understand the situation clearly before she could prescribe the right medicine. Yang Lingfeng nodded affirmatively. That's right. I'll take some of your blood first and study it when we get back. All right. The blood was bright red and they could not see any problems. This was also within their expectations. It was only when Bailey Hongzhuang and Yang Lingfeng walked out of the room together that everyone came forward to welcome them. Miss Bailey, how was the diagnosis and treatment this time? Is there a way to treat Lingfeng's condition? Facing everyone's concerned gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said, I need to go back and study it before I tell you. Hearing this, everyone frowned. Yang Lingfeng was here. What was he going to study? Yang Han was a little disappointed. It seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang was unable to diagnose and treat him, so she made such an excuse. When she returned, would they still pursue the matter? Medical Garden. There was a sneer in the depths of Bai Liuchuan's eyes. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't tell it all. She was just deliberately mystifying things. I thought that Miss Bailey's medical skills were outstanding and that she would definitely have a solution. I didn't expect that I would disappoint Uncle Yang. I'm really sorry. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Bai Liuchuan indifferently but didn't say anything. You can't casually spread this matter. You must keep it a secret. Otherwise, once this news is known by others, Bai Liuchuan's expression turned sinister. He had long planned that after the woman returned, he would send people to spread the news near her residence. Once such a matter was spread, City Lord Yang and company would definitely lose face. When the time came, they would vent their anger on Bailey Hongzhuang. Then, don't worry. The doctor is benevolent. I definitely won't tell anyone. Chapter 6703. Bai Liuchuan looked at Yang Lingfeng in astonishment. He had only gone in for treatment, but his attitude had immediately changed. If he didn't know that Yang Lingfeng was powerless, he would have thought that something had happened. This change was too fast. That's right. It's not like Miss Bailey owes us anything. She's willing to help treat us, so we should thank her properly. Yang Qingxue couldn't stand it any longer. Indeed, she didn't know what conflict there was between Bai Liuchuan and Bailey Hongzhuang, but it was too much for a man to target a woman. Bai Liuchuan couldn't help but feel anxious when he saw everyone glaring at him. Immediately he resented Bailey Hongzhuang even more. That's not what I meant. I'm just worried that this news will affect Lingfeng if it gets out. Don't worry. I believe in Miss Bailey's character. Yang Lingfeng glanced at Bai Liuchuan. If this news really gets out, it must be someone else's doing. Bai Liuchuan's heart palpitated. Yang Lingfeng was clearly referring to him. Lingfeng, I'm doing this for you. How can you target me like this? Yang Lingfeng couldn't be bothered. Miss Bailey's medical skills are indeed superb. She discovered that my illness might not be as simple as a psychological problem. The moment that was said, everyone present was taken aback. Yang Han took a few steps forward. Lingfeng, what do you mean? Upon seeing this, Yang Lingfeng looked apologetically at Bailey Hongzhuang. He understood her thoughts. She wanted to wait until she was certain before telling everyone to prevent them from having unnecessary expectations. However, Bai Liuchuan was too much. He couldn't stand it any longer. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly, indicating that she wasn't unhappy. Miss Bailey said that the reason why I'm like this might be because there's still poison in my body. Yang Han turned his head when he heard that. Miss, what do you mean? When I was taking young Master Yang's pulse, I realized that his pulse would fluctuate slightly every once in a while. This is a hidden problem. However, I've already taken the antidote back then and it's been so long. I need some time to be sure. Yang Han's expression changed as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a hint of surprise. He didn't know that there was such a thing. If that was the case, then everything would be solved as long as the poison was removed. Then I'll have to trouble Miss Bailey. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I'll do my best. Bai Ziyuan looked at Apothecary Wei and said, Apothecary Wei, did you notice this when you took Lingfeng's pulse? Apothecary Wei shook his head slightly. This old man is puzzled. I didn't notice it when I took your pulse earlier. Miss Bailey, can you tell me how you noticed it? Ever since their conversation, Apothecary Wei knew that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't someone who liked to play to the gallery. Since what she said was true, why didn't he notice it when he was taking her pulse? Medicine Master Wei, young Master Yang's abnormality can only be detected once every 10 minutes. It's normal that you didn't notice it when you were taking his pulse. If I hadn't discovered it by chance, I definitely wouldn't have known. Why don't you give it a try now? Chapter 6704. Upon hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's suggestion, Apothecary Wei's interest was piqued. He turned to look at Yang Lingfeng. Young Master Yang, I wonder. Yang Lingfeng smiled and said, Apothecary Wei, feel free to take a look. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang was so young and didn't seem to be very convincing, he didn't know why he felt that there was no problem with Bailey Hongzhuang's judgment. As long as it wasn't a problem with his body, he felt much better. After Apothecary Wei took the pulse, he realized that the situation was the same as what he had discovered previously. However, after knowing that it would take 10 minutes, he patiently listened carefully. Yang Qinxue and the others also understood that this wasn't the time to make a ruckus. They all stood silently to the side, waiting for the diagnosis results. A moment later, Apothecary Wei's expression suddenly changed. There was a hint of surprise between his brows. Upon seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang understood that Apothecary Wei must have discovered the problem. So that's how it is. I've taken the pulse many times, but I've never encountered it. It's fate that you encountered it. Apothecary Wei retracted his hand and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in amazement. Apothecary Wei, does that mean that everything Miss Bailey said is true? Apothecary Wei nodded slightly. That's right. There are indeed some problems in young Master Yang's body. It's very possible that the remaining poison hasn't been cleared. Miss Bailey's luck is really good. She actually happened to encounter it. She's really amazing. Bai Luchuan was about to die from anger. Bailey Hongzhuang's luck was actually so good. She could discover a problem that so many people hadn't discovered. Could there be anything more exaggerated? Seeing that Bai Luchuan attributed all of this to luck, Apothecary Wei retorted, this isn't luck. It's because little friend Bailey's knowledge is stable. This slight change isn't obvious. If she wasn't careful enough, she definitely wouldn't have discovered it. This old man's diagnosis was under the premise that little friend Bailey reminded me. This slight difference is really easy to overlook. Bai Ziyuan and the others were secretly surprised by Apothecary Wei's praise. Even though Apothecary Wei admired Bailey Hongzhuang a lot, he wouldn't deliberately say such things just to praise her. Therefore, there was only one reason left. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly talented. Bai Ziyuan and Yang Han were very clear that Bailey Hongzhuang was the only one who was able to detect it, even though so many pharmacists were unable to do so. This was her strength. Miss Bailey really lives up to your reputation. At this moment, Yang Han no longer had any objections. He also understood why Bai Ziyuan and the others were so polite to Bailey Hongzhuang. Such a lady was truly admirable. City Lord Yang is too kind. Bailey Hongzhuang cupped her fists. If it really is a remnant poison, as long as we can resolve it, young Master Yang's illness will be cured. Yang Qinxue and the others were pleasantly surprised. Sorry to trouble you. If Miss Bailey is able to cure Ling Feng, we will definitely do our best regardless of the reward. Yang Han also spoke. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang bowed with a smile. She didn't refute. Bai Ziyuan could tell that every city lord was quite wealthy. They hadn't been in the chaotic immortal realm for long, so they naturally wouldn't complain about having too many resources. It was only right to do things with money. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.